don't believe in those things?
Oh no, I do.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I believe in
Scared me for the first.
evolution. I believe evolution happened. It's necessary. I believe in round Earth.
Yeah.
Obviously, I believe we have enough modern evidence to support that. I believe in old Earth. I believe the Earth. It could be 100 million years old, billion years old. Doesn't matter to me. Age doesn't matter.
Okay. Well, it's 4.5 billion, just for your
Okay.
FYI. Um, but that's okay if you didn't study it. We don't all study everything, so that's okay. So, what's your background, or what's
Inquiring.
your current belief? I should say.
I'm a Christian.
You're a Christian.
I'm inquiring Byzantine Catholicism or Eastern Orthodoxy.
Oh, okay. Okay. Eastern Orthodox. Is that that's basically Greek Orthodox, right?
Yeah,
To my
Greek Orthodoxy.
Yeah, yeah. What brought you to that particular um, religion versus Catholicism?
I'm inquiring both. It's a lot of information to process with the early church to make your overall decision. Um, for a long time, I had a problem with the papacy, but it's very complicated. It's very, very complicated, but I don't know.
I think that's legitimate. I mean, the Pope is just a person, right?
Oh, for sure.
I mean, he's just a person pulled from the bishops and whatnot. So, or cardinals, sorry. Um, so he's just a human. It's just like the guy who leads Mormonism. He's just a guy.
Hmm.
So, giving that person the power of God speaking to him, to me, is kind of silly. It's beyond antiquated. It's kind of foolish. So if you take that special thing away from them and just look at them and admire them as people that are leading their church, then I'm okay with that. At least to
Oh
the
yeah,
degree that they're.
that's how I view the Pope, as someone that leads the church. I don't believe he talks directly to God or anything.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, he's supposed to be the head figure of the church. I've heard a lot of modern people when they hear, oh, the Pope is supposed to be like Christ here on earth right now, and they're like, what the heck does that mean? They're like, what the heck? And they
Yeah.
get this weird spew of what that means. He's supposed to be the head of the church like Christ was, and a representation, not literal Christ, but I don't know. It's a heavy subject. It's a very heavy subject. If you when I was Protestant for a little while, and I heard these more Orthodox and Catholic terms, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, what's a good one? I forgot. I think it was Saint John of Chrysostom who said it, that God became man so man can become God. I'm like, what in the heresy is that? But
So
it's
man can become God. Yeah, you're right.
yeah,
That doesn't make any sense, does it?
yeah. It was so a lot of it was derived from the Neoplatonic perspective of God as beauty and perfection itself. So when you have this mediator who Christ was the Logos, right? So the Logos is what will bring us out of chaos and habitable order. That's essentially what the Logos is, the essential idea of Christ, and Christ is perfect. So when we gaze upon Christ and we become more like Christ, we're becoming more like God. We're not literally becoming God, but we're becoming more like Him. So that's what it means.
I thought logos was just logic.
Yeah.
Logos means word, discourse, or reason.
So particularly John and a lot of the church fathers, there's two different ways that you can use it: logic, and then also a principle of logic too. So he's the divine principle. That's how we view him. Like in John 1:1, when it says the word was God, and the word oh my gosh, sorry, I'm really tired.
It's okay.
But basically, that's what it means. That's when we're referring to the logos or the word. It's a divine principle.
So okay. So John 1, the beginning of the word. I'm curious now. And
So John 1:1.
in the beginning was the word, and the word was with God, and the word
And the
was
word was
God.
God. Yeah.
Now that seems a little redundant, but okay. So in the beginning, in the beginning was God, is all it's really coming down to,
Hmm.
right? So it's a fancy way of saying, or a poetic way of saying God exists.
Kind of, yeah. So we
Yeah.
believe that there was always a divine principle There was always logic. So, but I want to hear more about why you're an atheist. That's a lot. It's
No, sure.
curious.
Yeah, I mean, I was raised Catholic, just a traditional
Hmm.
Roman Catholic, and listening to the sermons when I was a teenager, started to just get uncomfortable with the peculiarity of believing in things like Adam and Eve as the first people, and Jonah living in a fish, and parting of the Red Sea, and all the supernatural stuff like that. So I put it aside for quite some time, and slowly became more and more convinced that there was really nothing there. So I finally read the Bible because I didn't want to be criticizing something I wasn't that familiar with. And when I read the Bible, it was just convinced. It just convinced me that it was clear it was a book written at the time by people who had limited knowledge, and it was a book about believers more than it was a book about a deity.
Mm. So, did you believe those stories were literal at that time?
It's hard to remember, honestly. I just well, I know I just as a child I just took them as true because that's what they told me.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know.
Well, I don't believe the stories to be literal.
Yeah.
So if you read a lot of the church fathers, I think particular Saint Augustine was one of the ones that made a big point on this, all the way from Genesis to the end of the Torah. It's not meant to be literal.
How do we separate which ones are literal and which ones are not, or are none of
So
them?
that's where it kind of comes in. It's hard because a lot of it's history intertwined with storytelling, and somewhere out of the, I guess you want to say, the essence of what the story is. There's some sort of divine principle that you're supposed to adequate yourself to or pull from the story. So like and what I believe is interesting about those texts is what the essence of the text is. You can find Christ in, which is I that's what I think is interesting. Like with Exodus and stuff, when you have I'm gonna explain it a little bit better. So when Moses goes up to God and he's talking to God, right?
Hmm.
And he's asking God, our people are suffering, Lord. Like what are we doing? We're asking you for help. And God sends him back down. And like this isn't working. So he goes back up and he's asking God, he's asking him, you were suffering still, Lord. So basically the Lord tells him, like, why the heck are you bothering me? Kind of like, psh, right? You're gonna go
Yeah.
back down, and he sends a bunch of serpents to him. Does not make sense, right? Why would you, are your people are suffering, you're sending a bunch of serpents more down to make your people suffer more.
Hmm.
So what Moses ends up doing is raising the staff. And I like how the New Testament authors apply this to Christ in the suffering aspect, in that there's a hierarchy of some sort of suffering that is the principle of life itself. That's kind of what the essence of the story is, and that's what applies to Christ as well.
A hierarchy of suffering.
Yeah. So
Explain
basically,
that a little bit more.
everything is built upon suffering. Every hierarchy. So the
I
world
would,
is
I
built
would say
upon
so. It's
hierarchies.
beautiful. Can I give an example? I would say going to the gym and working out, and then you get sore after.
Hmm. Like I'm even sacrificing part of my time to be here. We're both sacrificing an element of what we believe true and our feelings to get to some sort of truth out of this conversation. Does that make sense?
In a way, I mean, there's a cost benefit to everything we do.
Yeah. So there's ultimately some sort of higher principle that we're trying to get to out of this conversation. So there's a hierarchy because it's bringing order to us in some way, shape, or form. And what I guess the ultimate principle is what we believe to be true. So that's why we're both here. We're trying to come to some sort of truth that's giving order to us in this conversation.
I'm not trying to come to truth. I'm trying to give out the position that there are truths that we know of that people
Mhm.
should, at least by the above thing,
Right.
that
So there's some sort of truth within the conversation where we
yeah,
believe.
yeah. I guess
Yeah.
what I would say that in a more general sense that then when when I speak to people that I know what's true of what I'm speaking, and of course I'm open to being corrected.
Yeah.
But when people say things that are illogical back to me, I like to point them out because I want
Yeah.
them to be truthful in what they know also, and not
Fair
follow
enough.
things for bad reasons.
Fair enough. And
100%.
a lot of with the stories too. Have you heard of analogical predicate?
I'm not familiar with it. No.
So with most of the stories, I forgot there was an early Jewish philosopher that talked about it too, and Aquinas was actually the one that coined the term analogical predicate for a lot of the stories. It's basically you're trying to take something that is comprehensible by our human nature in to something that is higher and above our understanding or idea of what of. So that's when we get a lot of these biblical stories. You're like, what do you mean God was in the bush? What the heck? That makes no damn sense. Why are you trying to derive this message out of the story? It's called an analogical predicate or hyperrealism. Have you heard of hyperrealism?
Yeah. An
That's another one.
analytical prejudice predicate says is a term used to describe something in a way that is partly true and partly not. The doctrine of analogical predication is a theory that explains how it can think about and know God. That kind of assumes a God. So that's the part that I'm puzzled by.
Yeah, for
Why it
sure.
Okay,
I
would
so
would
wait,
agree
assume
wait.
with that.
that
That is very true.
it's based on a higher power.
So
Hmm.
what you don't like is the assumption of a God. That's what you don't like.
Sure. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I don't like any
Okay, so then what is
unjustified
your what?
assumptions.
Repeat that. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I don't like any unjustified assumptions.
Okay, so what is your justified assumption?
My justified assumption is that reality exists and we're all in it.
But that's not really an assumption of anything. That's just a statement.
It's just a recognition that yeah, we are in reality. I mean, it's kind of like the foundational. And we could go all the way down to Descartes if you want
No, I
to,
mean like what do you
but
believe to have
but
created everything?
oh well, we don't know.
So you don't know. So
Hmm.
then you are admitting that there has to be a creator then.
Oh, of course not. No, because we it could be that the universe always existed, or the universe is cyclical. We know we have enough hypotheses in physics to know that those are options.
I mean, you kind of science kind of tells us when Earth begins, doesn't it?
It tells us when the Earth begins, yeah, but that's different from when the universe begins because the process of when the Earth begins is about 9 billion years into the process of how the universe evolves.
Yeah, but this is not a belief. This is a philosophy. That's why I asked you, what is
Well,
your
you can if
belief?
you have a. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, what is your belief? Like, what do you ground your understanding under? That's what I mean. Like, what is
I
it
don't
that?
particularly ground it. Because when you ground it on something, you are making a presuppositions, and I don't. I try very hard not to use presuppositions, and I try to be aware of the foundations of my knowledge and the things that are axiomatic. Like we know that logic exists, we know that math exists, we know that we exist in a reality that appears to be consistent for all of us. Um, that's kind
Here,
of the
here's
foundational
here's a
level.
good question. Here's a good question that
Yeah,
is kind of going off that subject. Would you say math and logic is necessary then?
I think it is part of the nature of the universe.
Okay, so you wouldn't say like a triangle can exist without 180 degrees, right?
That's how we define it. I mean,
Okay,
because
so it's
triangles on a flat surface have 180 degree sums.
mhm.
Triangles on a curved surface, for example, don't. So it depends on how we define it. If we define a triangle as a three-sided thing closed with on a flat surface, then that's by definition that's what it is.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Would you say it's absolute? Would you say it's absolute? So it's a standalone property of something.
Logic and math.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an absolute characteristic of our reality.
Okay.
The
So
consistency of logic and the existence of math.
would you say that because this is going to be this is kind of a touchy subject because you don't know how the universe exist or came to be, but would you say the universe is contingent when it's beginning? Is it subject to chance?
We don't know because we don't know if it was eternal. It could have
Okay.
been. It could have
Fair
been.
enough.
It could have been based on something. It could have been based on a deity. It could have been based on an entity. It could have been based on a sort of a cosmic natural power, or it could have been
Hmm.
eternal. Any of those are feasible.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Of course.
Because I was trying to get to that an absolutely necessary thing can't be predicated of a contingent.
Um, but again, if you have something that is necessary, which is that it just exists without a contingency, right? Without a
Mhm.
predicate, then the universe could be that. It's not something we can rule out.
Hmm. Fair
Wait,
enough.
but don't you guys like predict the sun to do certain things? You guys have hypotheses about the sun and
Sure.
what could possibly
Yeah.
happen
Well,
with the
there are
sun.
facts
And
about the sun that we and then
no, I mean,
we can make
I've heard,
hypotheses based on our observation of it. Sure.
yeah, I've heard a few hypotheses claiming that the sun's going to, you know, explode if I'm not mistaken, or it's gonna like, I don't know exactly what verbiage was used, but you know what
Yeah.
I'm referring to. Is
Yeah.
that true, or is
It's
that
going
a
to
false
expand. It's too
hypothesis?
small to explode, but yeah, it's going to expand and destroy the Earth. It's about 5 billion years down the road.
5 billion. And
Yeah.
how do you? So how do you like have the evidence for that? Like, how do you ground your belief in that?
That's in math and physics. If you do calculations based on Einstein's equations and the laws of physics that we know of, it is based on ultimately the mass of the sun of our particular star. How big that mass is depends on whether or not it's going to explode or just expand and then contract back down. And ours is too small to explode, so it'll expand and then it'll contract back down to, I think, a neutron star.
Yeah, I mean, these are all beautiful explanations. I mean, you're definitely a very intellectual person. I can't say you're not. I can't take away anything from you. I just feel that
This
the,
is this
I
the
haven't heard really a direct answer in what. So you don't believe in faith, then? I guess that's my next question.
Oh, no. Faith is terrible. Faith is jumping to a conclusion based on lack of reason.
Wait, I don't know about that one.
So
Yeah,
you
that's
don't
what it
believe
is.
faith and reason go together then?
So then,
Correct. They are that they should not be used together.
okay, so then I have a question, then, right?
And
Let's
well,
just
I
say, let's
can
use the court system. Let's
go
just use
ahead.
the court
Go
system as
ahead.
a
Yeah.
simple example, right?
Yeah.
Technically speaking, we have witnesses,
Hmm.
we have a jury, and let's say if you're a part of that jury, you didn't see what happened, you didn't know what happened, you don't have much evidence, you only know what you're told and what you're showed, but
Sure.
you didn't get to hear personal testimonies or anything like that. So let's say based on the evidence you're given, would you not consider that going based off faith? Would you not consider that you being like, you know what, I trust this person,
Well, see,
I believe this person is
that's the
true?
thing. I've been in that situation, so I'm familiar with it a couple of times. So what you do is you consider what they tell you and what you've seen and the evidence, and there's eyewitness things sometimes, and sometimes there isn't. There's circumstantial evidence, sometimes there's direct evidence. You put all that together, and the question then becomes, at what point do you consider that it is more reasonable than not to consider that the crime was done, right? So you're kind of looking for that line of you don't want to have faith because that's just jumping for no reason to the conclusion that yes, they did it. And sometimes we do that for prejudice reasons, which you don't want to do. So can we get close enough with the evidence to make a small jump of confidence? Like I am confident that he did this crime because there's a
Confidence is faith, though,
confidence is faith on a much smaller scale. It is a
but it's
whole
still
it's a
faith.
whole ball of wax, a different ball of wax.
But it's still
It's
faith. No, the Latin root word of faith is confide,
right.
and
That's both words come from the same
exactly.
root.
So you just said you're confident in it. That's faith.
Confidence, but with the problem we run into is that people use the
Mhm.
word faith as if it was confidence and trust, whereas those are basically a similar thing but on an entirely different scale.
I would say, according to this context and this scenario that we were given, this has to be under faith confidence. This couldn't be any other type of confidence. You're not confident in yourself, so it couldn't be any other type of faith. It was the faith of you putting it into someone else. You were confident in someone else and
What
their
does the Bible
testimony and
say
their
about
evidence.
faith? What is
You
that
said
phrase
what?
that the Bible says about faith? The evidence of things unseen, or something like that?
Are you referring to Augustine's quote?
I don't know.
It's faith is believing in the unseen, and then the reward of that faith is
Faith
believing what is
is
seen.
confidence in what is hoped for and the
See.
assurance of what is not seen.
There you
Hebrews
go.
11,
Hebrews
1.
11. The assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. So, and this is just from Google AI.
Yeah, but this is Old
This means
Testament.
that, yes, I understand. It's referring to
Imagine
Hebrews
cherry-picking you in
11.
Old Testament.
To be fair, it doesn't matter old or new.
It's referring to Hebrews 11. This means that
No,
faith
but I
is a
mean
belief.
now we kind of do have proof. We have Jesus. I mean, that's kind of our eyewitness testimony. That's the historical, accurate evidence that we
Did
claim.
you meet him?
Huh?
Okay,
Did you meet him?
You said, did I meet him? I don't have to meet him. You didn't meet your great grandmother, but you know she existed. You know that she's part of your bloodline.
Wait. We were talking
I'm just
about.
saying. You said we have proof, so I'm asking.
Yeah,
did
we
you
do.
meet
We
him?
have over
You met him
6,500
face to
Greeks.
face?
Proof and evidence is different. We have
No, you have hearsay. You don't have proof.
we have
You have
evidence.
hearsay.
We have
You
evidence.
have hearsay.
No.
It's
This
not
is the
hearsay.
most. We're talking about the most historically accurate figure in the entire world. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about 6,500 Greek manuscripts. We're talking about over 8,000 Latin manuscripts.
No.
This is the most historically
65.
accurate.
Tell me about
figure.
6,500 Greek manuscripts.
You said tell you about them?
Yeah. How are they 6,500?
We have, because there was many different accounts. There was many different pieces of evidence that we used to piece together the Bible. We had the Codex Sinaiticus, we had the Codex Vatican, we had a few things. We had quite a lot of things to help us. And even the book, if we look at the Ethiopian Bible as well, that's where one of the first Christian Bibles came from, which Ethiopia has never been colonized. They have one of the most preserved and historically accurate Bibles in the world, and our Bibles say the same thing. It's just a translation. Our language is just
why
far
is
bigger
that?
than theirs.
Okay, again, quick Google. There are 5770. I like they say approximately, and then they give an exact number. There are approximately 5778 Greek manuscripts of the New Testament, with around 400,000 variants. So there's a lot of copies of this book, and obviously the not adaptations, but the translations, right, and stuff like that. And then the papyrus that you're talking about, the Ethiopian one, that's the is that the no? Okay, no, I won't go there. I'm not sure which one that is. So yeah, there are not 6,000 documents. You've got copies of the same document with slight variations.
Correct.
I weigh in on this.
So you understand that if it goes back to one document, that's not 6,000. That's one.
No. We have to
You
understand something.
go back to the original. You try to get back to the original translation.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Go ahead, brother.
Hi, host. How are you?
Hey, I'm
I don't know
Phil.
if you remember
I'm Phil,
me.
by the way. I'm trying to make it more obvious tonight.
Yeah, I had a conversation with you before.
Yeah.
A very good civil conversation. I like it.
When
The brother over there was talking about the Ethiopian Bible, actually, Ethiopian and Israel, they have a very tight relationship in the Old Testament and also in the New Testament. So there was eyewitnesses that are written in the same Bible. They were documenting as well, the Ethiopians back then. A living testimony, meaning
Didn't that have to do with Daniel?
not a lot of people say that, but I have other interesting way to actually talk about faith and proofs. My thing is like, for example, me. I grew up in Ethiopia, but I didn't have to have any kind of archaeological evidence or historical or written documents or anything to believe.
Simple minds generally don't need a lot to believe.
Yeah, the only thing is word of mouth. Actually, I think that's why even the Bible was put together after Jesus Christ died. A lot of people were resurrected. 200 years later. The first one is Gospel of John between 8200 CE. But
Do you believe people were
I didn't
resurrected?
have to do all that digging. And I heard about him, and then I experienced it, and I created a relationship, and it worked for me. And
Do you believe people were
then
resurrected?
I have millions of people like me that experience the same thing.
You got to get louder, Phil.
I'm
Huh?
trying. Saved by grace. Do you think that people were resurrected?
Of course, Jesus Christ.
How is that reasonable to believe?
Because the only thing that is reasonable, because the only thing you know about the gospel, right, host?
Of course.
Jesus Christ died for our sin and resurrected after 3 days. And
Do you know of anything in your life experience that where something has come back from the dead? Plant, animal, insect, anything?
I mean,
actually, if you just simply Google YouTube, you have many testimony that people died and came back.
No, you
And
don't.
witness.
If they still are alive 20 minutes after they quote unquote died, that means they didn't die. That means that was a near death. So no, that doesn't happen. There's the closest that we have is some people that have come back from like being having their body temperature go way down, and then maybe they revive maybe up to 40 minutes later. That's very
40
rare.
minutes. Yeah.
Like
that
in a frozen lake or something, and we know the physiology how that works. As long as
I mean,
they're not.
I would say Harry Potter.
The Bible tells you
performed more
actually
miracles
500
than
people
Jesus.
raised as well.
So saved by grace. So
can't
tell
compare
me
Harry
how
Potter.
you
you can't
base.
compare Harry Potter to this.
Why?
This is
It's in a
completely
book.
different.
So saved
No,
by.
no, 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 no. It's
Hold
a big
on.
difference.
Hold
We
on.
know Harry Potter's a folktale. It doesn't say anything like the Bible says. The Bible says in the beginning. This is something completely different. This is explaining life itself. No other book in the world, and well, we can say other religions, but no other book, regular myth, folktale, explains how life began the way that the Bible does and how accurate it is.
So because somebody wrote in the beginning, it's wholeheartedly
No,
true.
that's not
and
the only
honest.
thing. You're cherry picking. You bring things up, and I'm
No,
showing you why
you
there's a
just
big
said
difference.
it says in the beginning. I'm asking you. So because it says in the beginning, that means it's 100% true and infallible.
No, it's
It
because
is
of a lot of
infallible.
eyewitness testimonies and accounts throughout the scripture and
Is
the
it actually
explanations
infallible?
and the way that
It is
Christ
infallible.
lived his life and how it taught us how to live our lives in order to feel the type of way. See, what you
Let
guys
me
don't
pause the
understand is
music and go
this
hard in
doesn't
here.
teach anything negative.
So saved by grace because there is a book that says there were people that came back from the dead. You believe that? We read novels all the time that say stuff like that. Why don't you believe those?
Right. That's
This
why
is
I'm saying
completely
Harry Potter.
You mean other books?
Sure.
Yes. Very good question, actually. The Gilgamesh,
Sure.
even is a
Gilgamesh.
long time ago. Gilgamesh, yeah. I read it when I was in college. But what I'm trying to tell you is, of course, if it, some of them, they have, they
Born of
they hold
virgins,
water. They hold water.
resurrected.
You know what it means? Because we believe as a Christians, there is the spiritual realm and then the physical realm, and then we also believe there's one true God and there are a lot of false
Can we
gods.
separate? Can you separate the you believe as Christians and you just believe for some reason?
And also, if you believe the Bible's infallible, like you said earlier, then can you please justify for me why it's okay to slay babies when your name is God?
Watch the language for
That's-
TikTok,
Wait,
please.
what are you talking
Oh,
about?
that's why I
slave
said
babies?
slay. I didn't say something else.
Justice.
Yeah,
is
but what
different.
are you talking about? What are you
Psalm
referring to?
137:9. Happy is he who snatches your infants and dashes them upon the rocks. I could go on.
Oh, okay. So are you gonna read the context, or you're just gonna cherry pick?
Oh, I'm the one cherry picking?
No,
Because
you are. You
Go ahead.
really are.
I'm not.
because-
because I'm
Juggernaut,
not a
go ahead
Christian,
and
so
read-
I can't
Wait,
cherry
wait.
pick.
Juggernaut,
Do you know
go
what
ahead
an
and read the
internal critique
context.
is?
Brother, take a second. Take a
Yes,
second.
Brother,
what-
do you know
This
what
is
an
when
internal
God-
critique
this
is?
is when-
I love
this
that you're
is-
trying to talk
this is
over
when
me, and
God-
then you're
wait,
getting
wait,
upset that I'm talking louder than you.
Host.
I mean,
he's
talking
asking
louder
you.
doesn't mean you're right.
Okay, Juggernaut,
Yeah,
Juggernaut,
well,
settle,
interrupting
settle,
me and
settle.
not letting me get my point across also doesn't make you
You're the
right.
only one coming on
You're
here
the one
being
trying to
being
steamroll, and then you're getting
facetious.
mad because I'm getting louder than you.
No one else was on the panel like this at all.
Okay,
No one.
Juggernaut, settle, settle, settle. So, Juggernaut, I want to ask you to give the context of what he's asking for, okay? Go ahead and unmute yourself, please. So give
The
the context
context of what he's asking is he's going to say, "Oh, well, it was a parable of King David." Right? This is what people do. Oh, well, you're taking it out of context. If you can read and it's not the way it doesn't make sense the way I want it to make sense, then you're taking it out of context.
So
out
then,
of context.
then
Out of
make the
context.
point by giving the context. I mean, if he is saying something out of context, then put it in context and prove him
Happy
wrong.
is
If
he who
he,
snatches your infants and dashes them upon the rocks. How do you take that out of context?
it's his challenge, not mine. So I'm just saying it would be
By all
more
means,
productive than
justify
just straight up
the
arguing.
atrocity that's describing.
I mean, so shouldn't Saved be able to find that that scripture, and shouldn't he know about it since he's saying he believes in it and backs it? Saved,
No.
right?
He made the wait, Kimmy. What we're not going to do here is we're not going to gaslight. He made the claim. I asked him for the
As he
context.
proceeds to gaslight.
He needs to bring the context because he made
We're
the
not
claim.
gonna
I have the
gaslight, he
context.
proceeds to
I have the
gaslight.
context,
No,
but
no.
I don't want to break it down. Wait. I don't want to break it down. And then he comes and he tries to interrupt me, and then now he wants to explain once I start speaking. No,
My guy,
we're gonna
you
do
started
this the correct
interrupting
way.
me first,
No.
and then
You
you're-
made
and
a
then
claim.
you're
Wait,
gaslighting.
brother. You made a claim. Explain it. Elaborate. Get the context. Don't just make
I
a
already
claim.
explained it. I'm asking you to justify it.
No, what are you talking
what do
about?
you
You're
mean,
asking
no?
me to justify it.
Go ahead. I'll wait.
I told you read the context. You already made the
Juggernaut,
context.
you need to settle. You need to settle.
I'm settled.
I mean, you're on my side
I
here,
brought
but I
up
want
something, an atrocity from his book, and he's all upset.
Okay, so
It's not. I'm not upset,
okay,
brother. I'm not upset at all.
So if I could just be like an outsider coming just in, listening, and hearing for a few seconds, Juggernaut is saying he listed a scripture, specific verse, and the
that's what
people
I'm
that are saying they support the Bible, well, they should know the verse.
No, I said if he's gonna bring up a quote, if he's
No,
gonna
you
bring
said
up a
if I'm going to
claim,
cherry pick,
I
first
said
of all,
bring
which
up
I
the
can't
scripture.
do.
Exactly, which is
No, I'm
pick
saying I
that claim.
can't do that because I'm not a Christian. Only Christians can cherry pick. When an outsider does it, it's called an internal critique, but I'm sure you didn't know that.
No, we already know what you're trying to do.
It's-
You can't have an internal critique because this is you that said it, not me.
It's
So how
not
could-
even
how
about
could-
it, Gucci.
So
It's
please
not
tell
even
me,
about
if you were a
what he's
follower of
saying.
Christ, then you would do an internal
Okay.
critique.
No,
Okay, hold on. This isn't working. This is just not working. Juggernaut, I don't want just continual arguing. I want points made. So
I'm confused how our conversation turned into this.
yeah, me too. So Saved by Grace, he quoted. And first off, not everybody has to know everything. So I don't care what side you're on. So let's just give each other a little bit of credit and humility for not having to memorize every little thing. So he said there was a baby's dashed or something. So let's find that quote and look at the context of it. So do you know?
I think it was
Saved?
babies bashed on the rock.
Yeah, he said something. It was the infant. It was the infant's. It was Psalm 223, I believe he said. I can't remember.
Okay.
We'd have to tell him to put it in the comments because I know
I'll
it's
look
in
it up.
Psalm.
I'll look it up. Let me find it, and then we can look at the context.
Psalms 137:9. That's what he said.
Okay. Psalms 137:9. I'm not fast enough to get it up on the screen yet, but I'll read it. So Psalms 137. Okay, there it is. So let me go back. So Psalms 137. Looking for context here. By the rivers of Babylon, we sat and wept when we remembered Zion. And then it goes, remember what the Edomites did on the day Jerusalem fell. Tear it down, they cried. Tear it down to its foundations. Daughter
Mm-hmm.
Babylon, doomed to destruction. Happy is the one who repays you according to what you have done to us. Happy is the one who seizes your infants and dashes them against the rocks.
So this was explaining what the Idiomites
Okay,
had
so
done
they're saying
and why.
that people, if I'm reading this right, people attacked Babylon by killing their infants. Therefore,
Yes,
happy is those who do go and do the same to them.
ex- exactly.
Okay, so
And
there's your context. So both sides are wrong. Can I just simply say two wrongs don't make a right?
yeah, I apologize for getting loud, and I wasn't trying to do that. I was definitely trying to stay in the on point. But
No, I
I
mean
mean, if there's any other points
Juggernaut
that
was
wanted,
trying to make points, but he was just arguing over everybody and getting up in it too quick, so that we weren't getting any points. So yeah, the happy is the one who seizes your infants. That is not a good thing to recommend, because when one side has been attacked, the other side is going to attack back. But obviously we can see that there's an advantage to not taking it out on the next generation and the innocent at the very least. So I don't consider this a moral command from God. Comments?
um, I would say if you so basically what they were doing was the Idiomites, they were worshiping a false prophet, and what they were doing was they were sacrificing the infants to false prophets. That's what they were doing, and basically, if I'm not mistaken, to the Edomites and the Amalekites, if I'm not mistaken, someone correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that that God, he came with a wrath and he judged them, and it did not go nice for them, and he told them to burn everything there and get
Right.
rid of everything because there's no way
So false
you could
prophets.
basically fix that.
So false prophets, meaning there were other gods, or that they
No,
believed in
like
other gods,
like demons.
demons.
These were people claiming
Ay,
to
ay, ay.
be idols, and they weren't.
See how we get in trouble by believing crazy stuff even back then. But okay,
I
people
mean,
believed in crazy stuff back then.
so I'm gonna just ask you an honest question. Then you don't believe in voodoo or none of that either. You don't
No,
believe that exists.
no. There's no such thing as
Mm.
voodoo. Well, there is such
So
thing
you
as
don't believe
voodoo.
in
There's no such
any
thing as
forms of
demons
magic at all.
and spirits. No, and I'm
So
just
then the evidence, all the evidence that they have of spiritual encounters and people being exorcised, and all these
mhm.
things that happen, you don't believe none of that to be true, regardless of all the evidence
Yeah,
they
I
have.
believe it to be a symptom of psychology of what people think they believe and what they've been taught within their culture. Because it's just like people will see demons of their culture versus demons of whatever is taught in other cultures. So that has been shown vociferously. So if the what was it, Edomites, or Edomites, it says, um, believed that they were sacrificing something, they were not correct in doing that. You don't come in and do away with the innocent. You go in and you try to take away the practice. So to not harming the innocent. Basically, what you have here is a jealous God coming in and saying they're not worshiping me, therefore they should all be done away with.
I
And then
mean,
how are we
that's
supposed to
exactly
take
what.
that?
So,
How are we supposed to take that in modern times? How are we supposed to react to that in terms of a lesson
I
for
mean,
modern times?
the reason I understand how it's hard for you to believe because you don't believe, but I mean, we believe and we understand that God didn't promise a life without suffering, and also I think that it's very important to like understand. I feel like this is God. Our life is given to us. It's granted to us. It's not even ours to complain about
It
having.
is yours to
To be
complain
quite
about.
honest.
It is yours to
But
complain about.
but 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 could I ask a question, please?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Like, I'm just thinking, like, let's say I was born in New York, and in USA, and then so let's say the predominant religion was Christianity. I live in California now, whatever, it doesn't matter. But let's say I was born in the Middle East, and I was taught Islam, and so I believe in that God. Or I was born in India and I believe in the Hindu religion. I mean, does it not dawn on anybody that we're a product of our society? You know what I'm saying? Like
Very
every
much.
single society says, "Oh, this is the one true God." Like, does not anybody see that that is true? Like, can we not see through like the veil to say that I'm born in this country, I believe that. I'm born in this country, I believe that. I'm born in a different country, I believe that.
I
It's
mean,
like,
no one's saying you can't believe in what you want. No one's telling you that.
Psychological studies have demonstrated that that is the factor that is highest correlated to what your religion is. It is what you were born into.
well,
You
yeah,
know,
exactly. So,
No. I would not say that. I
no,
would say
no.
I did my own research and I learned about this myself, and I
That doesn't
followed.
matter. On average, I mean, you may be different because not like I think the number is 70%. So, but the greatest correlation is the religion you were born into.
And then
yes.
also as the same effect, it's like, let's just say you're in a religion, Islam, India's religion, Hindu, whatever,
Mhm.
Christianity, and then let's just say there's a person that comes on, let's just say, for example, Gandhi, who has some really good ideas, but you're not allowed to let his ideas in to your mind or your life because he's outside of your religion.
Yeah.
So
Where
it's
do you
like,
get that interpretation that we're
Hold on,
supposed
brother.
to just
Kimmy,
ignore
Kim,
everyone and not
we
speak to
have an
people?
answer for all that. You know what we
Wait, wait.
believe that is in the world. Our Lord told us that there is the devil is the prince of the world. We are under the devil, and
I'm
then
sorry.
devil.
What's that the word? Say that
yeah,
again.
we can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, better.
Okay, so the prince of the world is the devil, and he has
Oh, the devil.
territories. Yes.
There
All
are
right,
no.
let's stop right there for one second. Let's
Let me
stop right
finish
there.
first. Okay, let me finish.
Yeah.
No, no, no.
Then no, don't
Let
say
him
that.
finish. Let him finish. Let him
The
finish.
host won't let you do that. Now, every territory, like you are mentioning, the Middle East, every country, even every city has rulers under in the spiritual realm. Okay, so they are in the control. So now you see that Europe used to be pagan long time ago. They actually have different gods, like the pagan gods. Okay,
Sure.
then they heard the news of the gospel. Little by little, they changed. Now they turning back against the true God.
Do you know why they
So
changed to
U.S.
Jesus? Do you know why the Romans changed to Jesus?
Yeah, why are you saying the true God? I mean, if you were born in the Middle East, you would believe in something else and
They
you would call
changed.
him God.
Stop.
Constantine
They
changed.
All
say
right, wait.
you
Constantine
have.
Where do
changed
you
to.
get this
Hold
from?
on a
Wait, where do you
second,
get
brother.
this from that
Kimmy,
God can't
Kimmy.
save on God would
Do you
save
have
only
a true
Jews?
God yourself?
I'm just saying
Constantine
that
changed to Catholicism because he saw that it was becoming popular and he was starting to lose power. So he jumped on the bandwagon.
exactly, exactly. Post.
I mean, Constantine was persecuted at first for that change. You know that, right?
Doesn't matter. He was trying to stay in power. Doesn't
It
matter if
could
he was
happen that
successful. That
way.
was his intention.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is two different things. We just brought up the Ethiopian Bible as the first Christian Bible, and now we're talking about the Romans and how they supposedly perverted the Gospels. If you can show me evidence of perverted Gospels, then hey, show me.
I'm
But if
showing. I'm
there's no
telling you,
evidence of
all
it,
of the Gospels. All the Gospels are stories, not to be taken seriously, not to believed. There are no gods. There are no devils. There are no
so
demons.
if they are perverted, if
Oh
they are to
no, no,
not be
no.
real, show me the unperverted Gospels.
Oh wait, let me say one thing. What about the King James version? Who is King James? If you're aware of the history of
I
man,
read the NIV. I read the
and King
NIV.
James came up with,
King James is a Freemason.
you know
I
what?
don't
I
read
was talking
KJV.
right now, so I'd just like to finish what I have to say. So if I could, just right quick. King James was the ruler at the time, and he chose which canons were acceptable to be put into his Bible. But he also chose to leave out certain books like the ones they found in Qumran, in the Dead Sea Scrolls, like St. Thomas, etc. I mean, he chose the one he wanted. So it's just like
What?
with
Hold
humans,
on.
Yeah, I don't know where
Hold
he
on.
got
All
that
right.
from.
So no. So amongst the early church fathers, do you know why those gospels were not accepted?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do.
Why?
I
What's
just
that?
told you.
No, I'm talking about the other gospels, the Gnostic gospels that you just mentioned, like St. Thomas and stuff.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you know why they were not accepted?
Because they challenge the idea of the traditional power of God.
No. So within the early church, there was a lot of heresies popping up that were trying to conflict with the Injil at the time, which was the first four gospels. So you would get things like Arianism and modalism popping up within the early church. So you'd get these Gnostic gospels, and the reason the early church shut these down right away is because they were trying to push anti-Christian ethics and propaganda at the time to try to convert people to different ideologies. So the early church realized how dangerous this was and did not put it in the Bible. And anyways, these Gnostic gospels are already stealing from the original gospels that were already formulated at that time.
The Gnostics and the Essenes came before the prophets. Like the prophets were the prophets' message, like Mark, John, Luke, whatever.
You mean the apostles?
Yeah, I meant the apostles. Yeah, I meant the apostles. So their message was like 200 years after they were alive.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
The
No, it wasn't.
Gnostic
Even Bart Ehrman dates
Gospels
it
were
way
written
earlier.
between the 2nd and 5th century. I'm looking
Yeah.
at
So
there.
most New Testament scholars date Mark is the earliest and John is the latest, and it's within the first 80 years of Christianity.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, brother.
Yeah,
Right on the
sounds
money.
about right.
So,
This is
so
evidence.
in particular with these Gnostic Gospels, when they're popping up, it's stealing from what was originally already there and pushing anti-Christian ideologies. So that's why they were not permitted within the early church and were shut down.
All right. So can you explain, like, what do you mean the Gnostic ideologies? What is that?
All right, so particularly there was one, forget me for my illiteracy with this, but a lot of them would push anti-woman rhetorics. Like a lot of them had, they're one of the stories that they wanted the people to push at that time was that when a woman would die, they would want them to come back as men, so in order for them to go to heaven, and Christ would do that. So it's some of those. That was kind of the essence of what why these were shut down too, and why they didn't agree with Christian morals. A lot of it had to do with women and a lot of theological problems. That's just an example. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff with the Gnostic Gospels. I'm kind of drawing a blank right now, but
But I appreciate that about you. But also at this point, I mean, the current Bible says women can't be preachers, we can't be priests,
Yeah,
we can't
that's
be
from
ministers.
Paul.
are you referring to Acts?
Paul.
Paul? Okay, so in particular with this, if you look at the historical account of this, the reason Paul's doing this is because women actually had a lot of rights. So if you look into Pile the Hunger's writing, he actually writes to the emperor at the time about how women are not listening to a lot of the pagan stuff at the time. So give me a minute, I gotta correlate my
So,
thoughts. So when Pile's
so
writing, he's writing about these women are not listening to these pagan holidays, and these gods essentially were meant to correlate a message or essential idea during that holiday, and these women were not listening. And also that has to do with Acts as well. When Paul is saying this, these women are going out with their new freedom, like, hey, I'm not going to worship these gods, and they're going crazy, basically.
Wait.
So-
I have a question. Can
Yeah.
I stop you there? What are you saying? The women are not listening because they have a newfound freedom. Like, what are you
So-
talking about?
So one point of clarification here is a lot of what you're talking about is in Timothy, 2 Timothy, I believe it is. And that is not actually, most biblical scholars do not think that was written by Paul, that was written by another author who was trying to imitate Paul's style and take Paul's name. And there's several of the letters are now being attributed, or have been for years, but most biblical scholars do not attribute them to Paul. They think it was someone else.
And
I think it's Timothy, Titus, The other thing is in Acts there is a female apostle, and that's one thing that King James version of the Bible does, is it tries to change the name of the female apostle in Acts and try to make it seem like where she's not a female. I think it's the NIV and the King James version do this. They change how that reference to a female apostle is named to make it seem like there's not a female apostle, or she was just an assistant to the apostles or a friend of the apostles, instead of actually being a female apostle.
I mean, defend before you talk, or Gucci. I just have a question. I mean, obviously, Ralph, the sign of the times, women were not, respected, and so of course there couldn't be a woman that had an opinion or like an original idea or a belief about anything. So I believe what you're saying is true. But I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so like instead of us fighting about the freaking words and the books and this and that, it's like, what about the fact that Jesus came, he gave a message of forgiveness, okay? So I have personal interaction with Jesus in my mind about forgiveness. I personally experienced a powerful message of forgiveness, right? And my life was changed because of it. But it doesn't mean that I believe in the Bible. But my entire point, whoa. My entire point in saying this is, why be so fixated on the dogma and the rest of the story when Jesus' only message was love and forgiveness? Like, why would we
Well, you
argue
can't. So this
about
is why.
anything
I would say.
else?
So I have a question for you.
I agree with the forgiveness and the grace and the mercy and showing compassion to one another. But it also tells us that if you try to help your brothers and sisters come back, that you must, if they don't want to listen,
No.
you must go away from them. But you cannot show any type of negative, you can't be negative at all. Like, it doesn't tell you to do that. It just says let them be in their ways. And I feel like it's very important to understand that we're not saying
Jesus' message was also very
we have to
much
believe.
to
Wait,
not
whoa.
Old Testament
One
law.
at a time. I can't hear him. Gucci, go ahead.
Yeah, what I was gonna say, I agree with you 100% on Christ was about forgiveness, and I agree 100% that we are all gonna fall short to the glory of God. I don't disagree with that because it tells us that, but it also says those who endure to the end. It doesn't say those who pick and choose and live of the fleshly world and live of the selfless life. It tells you to deny yourself and follow the ways of Christ. And honestly, it doesn't tell you anything negative. It tells you how to be happy. It teaches you how to not do the things that your mind may think may make you happy, but it's not going to make you happy. And he's showing you how the only thing that's going to make you happy is living a certain way, being disciplined, being obedient. I don't think that it's telling us anything negative. It's all in the scripture.
Hold on, Gucci. So, yes, Jesus does tell you to obey Old Testament law, and a lot of that is very negative and ugly. So you can't say he just tells you nice things.
But they also said what was once unclean is now clean. That's why they gave Peter the revelation in the Bible.
You're missing what I'm saying.
Wait, can I say one thing? Because Peter, God gave Peter a revelation about the food something about food back then, and he was telling him to eat, and he said, "Don't call unclean what I have made clean." And then it was an example of how he was trying to be with the Gentiles. That was the whole point. It was an example that just because you're not a Jew doesn't mean you can't be saved. And that was the whole point of saying the Jews and the Gentiles.
Yes,
can be saved, which
I
means
understand what you're
everybody.
saying.
So that's why I'm saying we have to understand
it
that.
also tells you to obey Old Testament laws.
Yeah, I'm not saying it
single bit
doesn't.
of it. Every
I'm
word,
not saying it doesn't.
Every letter. And the Old Testament law says to own slaves, to stone people.
No. Wait, pause.
Yes.
It set the standards for what they were doing back then. It didn't. Humans did that on their. Wait. One thing.
No. It says you may own slaves. Period.
That's whenever he said. Go ahead, defend. Go ahead.
Honestly, I forgot what the question was now.
on slave thing.
And the only people
Now,
we were enslaving were the non-Israelites,
can I
because
have a
that's
mic?
when they enslaved us back then, and that was because we were
Does that make it right?
that was because they were worshiping a false idol as well.
Does that
And
make
on
it
top of
right?
that, it also said that back then slaves were to be treated as workers who were paid on an hourly wage and treated fairly.
No,
This is
it
all in
does not
scripture.
say that.
Does
Yes,
not
it does.
say
I can
that.
bring it up for you
No.
right now. I
Go
can bring
ahead.
it up for you
Can
right
I
now.
can I tell
Bring
you,
it up.
Ralph? You
Yeah.
know, when Jesus Christ was on earth, right? The Romans
Right.
were
So
basically the Romans were colonized a lot of countries, including Israel, where he was born in Bethlehem, right? So if he wanted, they like the people want to make him king to make them free from colonization, but that's not the main thing he came for. He came to introduce the kingdom of God.
Forgiveness.
So
Forgiveness. That's
it's
it.
okay,
That's the message.
Kimmy, let me finish. Then that he came to introduce the new kingdom. He's not interfering in humans' affairs back then. You see, even he
Look,
told them,
wait,
if
can I
you
read the
carry
script? Can I
2
read the
miles
I
worth
have
scripture
a
on
question.
how
Whoa,
it
whoa, whoa,
said?
whoa! I have a general question. I have a general question. Are you people not capable of having a conversation outside of the Bible? Are you capable of having a
I
discussion
am.
in the real
I
world
am.
about real people and
Yes.
taking care of each other without going through this crap that they've gone
Yes.
through for 3,000 years?
Exactly.
so I have a
Agree,
theory,
host.
guys.
Yes. Yes.
So if there's no such God, then there's no such thing as human rights, right?
Too young.
yeah, host. We
Bro,
can
Sorry,
talk
too young.
about
Too
that,
young.
but
The
I think
boys.
That was a wild one.
one thing I like to say though, host. Now, we all have some sort of a belief, like me and you have a long conversation before. The thing that you hold on dearly is your theory of, evolution, right? That's your faith. And then we're talking about, Lady Kim, I don't know what, everybody is have faith somewhere. You know what I'm saying?
There's no faith in
There
evolution.
is no faith
Well,
at all.
that's,
It is
well,
well
let's,
So
established.
then,
What
so then
is
I
let's
have a
discuss
question,
about
right?
faith
If
and
you're
what it
able
what
to
means.
deem
what is
really
your
quickly,
definition?
You
What
believe
is
you
your
came from
definition
some.
of faith?
Saved by grace, you're about 100 years behind if you think that we're believing evolution based on faith.
Exactly. Exactly.
Why?
What is your definition of
wait,
faith?
wait. So you guys believe in evolution?
Believe is
Yes.
Evolution
faith.
is true. Period.
Evolution is
Is
not a
Educate.
good.
belief, though.
Educate.
Evolution
Is
is a
faith.
process.
Look.
Educate.
Look. 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 So at this point, it's like
I'm pissed tonight. I'm pissed.
science and spirituality meet. Okay, but the point is that a lot of religions keep people beholden to a certain set of beliefs that they can't break out of, that they can't think outside the box, because within that religion, the religion tells them, do not believe anything else. Do not read anything else.
Right.
Do not open your mind to anything else because it is evil. Do not look at the grand masters or people that could impart some type of wisdom. You know,
Where does it tell you not to
It's
do
the
that?
same thing. What you're talking about is you yourself, you have a box because you're saying you do not belong to one, belong to everything, research and search and research. Now, the host is
Can I say something really quick,
in a
Kimmy? I
box
just want
too.
to
He
ask you something.
believes,
Hold on. Let Gucci
you know,
finish. Let Gucci finish first, please.
human came from apes. We
You're
talked
safe.
about
Sorry.
that. He doesn't want to take any other thing. So that means he looked at Christianity, religion, he researched, and that's where he landed. And us, we landed with Christ. You know what I'm saying? Didn't we go to evolution class? Yes, we did. Then I investigated Buddhism, Islamic. I did. I did read a lot of religion. I landed on Christ,
Wait, Kimmy,
and that was
really
what
quickly,
works for me.
Kimmy. I just want to say one thing, Kimmy.
wait,
Where
Gucci,
do you?
Gucci, I already know your question, okay? I already know your question. I went
What
to
was my question?
a Baptist church. I had this boyfriend. I went to a Baptist church, okay? When I got in there, they literally looked at me and they said, if you're not a true believer, you have to go. You have to leave right now.
That's
And I said,
you.
no,
Oh my
your
God.
question is, what proof do I have that it says that if you don't believe, you have to go. Like, you have to
Yeah.
believe a certain, right. So that's
Where
what
does the
I'm saying.
Bible? But where does the Bible say that? Not a bad church that treated you wrongly, and I apologize that you even had to experience that, because it's not about that. Because some people go there to try and learn about the Word of God. So I feel like it's very important to not kick people out. You would want someone there. So I do apologize for that terrible encounter you had with the Baptist church. And I hope that that doesn't deter you from the idea of who Christ truly is, because Christ never turned his face from a sinner.
Look,
Anytime any sinner need help, he went to help them. He showed them compassion. He showed them how to live a certain way. He helped them become better. The reason most of these people even come forth and risk their life to even tell these stories, because this is not just some random folk tale, because these are people who risk their lives to tell us this story. They didn't even have to
This
do
is a
that.
folk
They could have
tale.
easily
This
been
is
like,
a
you know
folk
what, I don't
tale.
want to go through that.
This is a folk tale about people doing that.
I mean, you can say whatever you want, and I'm not going to take it away from you. I don't believe that to be true, but
I already know
nonetheless,
that.
I mean,
I think that
I mean, the whole
Go ahead, Kimmy.
point
When you
was
say
it was written
evolution is a folk
to
tale,
convince people to do certain things.
yeah,
That's kind
No,
of the
no, but
definition
she's
of
saying
it's
folk
a
tale.
that
civil
we're supposed to turn our
conversation.
face
But host,
and
can we say the same thing about evolution is a folk tale?
No, you'd be wrong. You'd be uneducated and wrong. Have you studied? What's your background in science?
I'm sorry, I got go.
oh, so you got to have a degree in science to talk
whoa,
about
whoa,
it.
whoa, whoa,
You have
whoa,
to
whoa, whoa.
understand.
One
You
second.
have to understand that there are people who have degrees that know more than you and I do on these subjects.
And
Just
also at the same, wait, Gucci, let me talk for one moment. At the same time, my mom has a medical mind. She's Western med all the way. And I'm a Pisces. I have a very like esoteric spiritual mind. And at the same time, it's like it's the meeting of the minds, right? Like, just because like me and Jesus, we're bros, okay? Like fingers crossed, we're like
What is this
close.
live turned
I
into?
say that because I had like an experience because I studied forgiveness. I studied it as a scientist and I reflected on my life and I applied the principle of forgiveness
What did you
to
learn?
every area of my
What did you
life.
learn about forgiveness as a scientist?
Oh my God. It was really incredible.
No,
It's
I'm
not a
curious.
joke, okay? It's not fucking funny. You
no,
know what? You
we're
look
not
like a
laughing. I
dumbass
don't think
right
we're
now.
laughing. No, we're not laughing at you, Kimmy. It's just I don't. I just his
What does
question threw me off. I didn't expect him to ask that.
Well, you know what?
what
Let
does
me say
science?
one
No,
thing right
because what
now.
does science say? What does the psychology of science say
I,
about?
I would love to say it, but the entire point is whoever the fuck is in charge of whatever the fuck we are right here. I'm sorry, I'm from New York. I curse a lot. But let's say the host has a left brain mind. I have a right brain mind. Okay? Who's to say who made that up? Nobody knows. I don't care who you are. Nobody knows. The simple fact is nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows our history. Nobody knows our future. Okay?
If you close your mind like that, you probably won't ever know anything.
No, bro, let me finish. Okay? So, coming from a right brain raised by a left brain, I could just say the power of forgiveness, which I was taught by studying like Jesus as like an outsider looking in like as a textbook study. I could say that forgiveness just allows us, it brings us to a human principle. Nothing woo-woo, nothing Bible. It just says as a human principle, oh wait, there's a chance that you could release your misbeliefs about the beliefs you had as a child towards your parents. Okay? You could release them because you know what? Maybe you had the wrong idea. Maybe they were humans. Maybe they didn't know what they were doing. Maybe they were doing the best they could. Maybe they didn't know what the fuck they were doing. But
Yeah. So then, if
Hey,
forgiveness
could you give
did
me a
so much
second?
for you,
Because I
quick
like to
question:
say
if you learned
something
so
about
much, if you
forgiveness,
learned
brother.
so much from Christ about
I'm
forgiveness,
not
why
even
don't you?
done, and you're
Yeah,
not even
Kimmy,
hearing me.
Kimmy,
You're not even, your
Kimmy,
ears are not open.
I have a
but Kimmy,
question
I
for the
understand you
host
because
whenever we get a moment.
host actually asked me what my background is. I'm an engineer, but right now I went a whole other subject. I told him before, he forgot, but I'm doing a psychology on PhD on psychology right now. To be honest with you, it's not that you brought it up, but I chose for one course. I'm gonna write about forgiveness, and then if you see in Google Scholar, a lot of journals study, like you were saying, empirical studies how the power of forgiveness
You know what? You
applies
could
for
reference
human.
me because I have an extremely powerful personal experience with forgiveness.
Okay, I can put
So
you
I
on
could,
my.
I
Yeah,
could
I'm
be one of
serious.
those
Yeah, actually
reference
this week
points,
I should
but
Well,
finish
you
it
need
this
at the
week.
more.
same,
You need more than
I'm,
individuals. You
I'm
need
just,
collective.
No, that's what she's saying. There is actually empirical studies about
Yeah,
forgiveness
that's why I was asking. That's I was because I know
because
there is. I
it's
know there
about your
are.
psyche. It can actually, if you don't forgive, you are trapped,
you're
and then it
trapped.
can affect.
Exactly.
When
And
you
that
have
was Jesus' message.
childhood
That was
trauma
his
or
only message.
yeah, so you have this childhood trauma that somebody
Which we
raped
all
somebody,
have.
and yeah, and then all their life they cannot get it out of the psychology, then it
Exactly.
brings like
It's so beautiful.
psychological disorder,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
it doesn't allow you to reach what you want to achieve in your life.
Yourself. It doesn't allow
Yeah,
you to get to
so
yourself. Like if you peel back an onion, you have to
yeah,
peel back all those layers so you could get to your true self. And then at the
yeah,
same
the
point,
true the
It
cause,
takes
the
a
root
lot of
cause.
suffering.
I
It
have, I
takes.
have I have a
That's what
point
I'm
to make.
hearing, and it's beautiful because suffering teaches you so much. It really does.
Yeah, so
Everyone looks at
I
bad things
what
as something
host?
understand you.
negative.
Wait,
I
I want to
understand
make.
what
you
I want to
because
make
host?
a
you were
point here.
saying
I want to make a
Wait,
even
point.
the
let's let
host.
host talk.
I want to make a
Okay,
point
Talk.
go
that
ahead.
but forgiveness includes the ability to forgive yourself for carrying forward
That's it.
false and incorrect past information, and the ability to learn and move forward without guilt. Because
Yes,
we sometimes
that's exactly what happened to me.
we resist so strongly because of a sunk cost fallacy of we're so deep in that we we feel too embarrassed to pull ourselves out of it, and we continue on with things that aren't true.
Yes, yes, exactly. That's the entire point I was trying to make, but they cut me off because after I had to forgive my misperceived wrongs about my parents, and then I was, of course, betrayed by society, and how they treat us, and of course, now it's elevated and amplified with housing, food, all the wrongs they do, corporations. Like, of course, they're all fucking us in the ass right now. But but this was back like 20
Yeah.
years ago, where I also had to like say to myself, like I had to forgive myself for believing in my misperceptions. And that's what when the Bible says set you free, that's what set me free. So on some level, that's what I said. Jesus is my bro. He's my bro. Like
All
I
right.
love him.
Quick
He loves me.
question.
Like I get him.
Yeah.
He
I
was
have
just
a
a guy. He taught
question
me that.
whenever we get a
Okay.
minute.
Okay. Good. I'm sorry. Who was this? This was on top.
Hi, this
Joe.
is well, my name's EJ.
EJ.
Last
Okay.
name's
Go ahead, EJ.
Osterly, but yeah, EJ. I have a question that is actually not related to religion, but more around atheism versus agnosticism. I find it it's hard whenever somebody who's been indoctrinated with religion tries to convince me of something that I can't see, and I always feel like the burden of proof is on the person that makes the claim. So there's no way that you can prove that there's a God. So I don't believe that there is one, and I haven't seen any evidence that there is. However, an absence of evidence does not necessarily mean an evidence, evidence you know how it
Evidence of
goes.
absence. Yeah, it can be, but not
Yeah,
necessarily. Yeah.
right. So, I mean, do I actually think there's a God? Uh, no, but I can't disprove it either. So I'm not comfortable calling myself an atheist.
Fair.
And I just
And
kind of wanted to hear your thoughts around it.
I agree. I mean, that's why I've got agnostic on top of here. I mean, absence of
Oh,
evidence
I
is consistent with non-existence, right? But it's not enough by itself. So I don't consider absence of evidence to be strong evidence.
could I
Yes, I want to.
weigh
Can
in
I
on
ask a
something that
question
not
outside?
even?
I wanted
Could
to
I
ask a question
weigh in? I was
outside.
Wait,
first.
wait.
I was
Kimmy had
first.
a comment.
Bluesky.
Kimmy, you got a comment?
Okay, so let me just say one thing. If you look up at the stars, I mean the stars, there's space, right? There's stars, there's planets. If you look at radio waves,
Stars.
look at the energy. Oh, what I'm trying to produce is a sense of wonder, okay? Like a sense of not knowing. And also, when I had my experience, I had an experience where I was so clean and pure that I know you guys are going to think I'm crazy, but because I was blameless at this point and I'd forgiven so much that I actually saw like the bushes zapping their green energy into my eyes. I know it sounds completely ridiculous, right? I mean, I'm not mentally ill. I'm just saying. But the simple fact that that happened to me is proof that we don't know, and the proof that stars are in the sky. We don't know everything. We don't know. We can't know. We can't
well,
know
and
everything. And
exactly,
that
and
just like
as an agnostic, that's what agnostic means. It means without knowledge. So
right,
there is like, and that's the thing is there are things that you know, and then there are things that you don't know.
Right.
Right? And there are some things that we know are unknowable. That's why they call it faith, right? That's why anybody that believes in God has to suspend their disbelief as if they're watching The Lord of the Rings. And on that front, I kind of get into it. I kind of enjoy going to church and going through the little rituals and the smells and bells and stuff. It makes me feel like a human, but I don't believe any of it.
I like
I
that
don't
smells
know.
and bells phrase. That's kind of cool.
I don't think that sounded crazy at all, Kimmy. I mean, like,
No.
I believe in some crazy stuff, including aliens and interdimensional beings, the multiverse, etc. So I might sound a little unhinged too.
I mean, I think at this era in our progression as a culture of human beings on the planet, that we have just not yet tapped into this other part of our brains, because I was completely sober and I was completely on the natural. And I mean, I experienced, like, I feel like at this point, it was like an otherworldly experience. Like, not only did I see the green bushes zap their energy into my eyes, like I saw the energy, but then I also hovered
What?
above my body on the natch in the day, like on
But what
nothing,
about
completely sober.
that convinced you that was Jesus and that was God?
Can we not
No,
I mean,
interrupt her,
how do you know
please?
that wasn't Zeus or Aphrodite or
no, that's so earthly. That's so earthly.
so
I
you
mean,
just
come on, man. You know, like you gotta like
but
widen your
but
horizon.
you identify this experience with Jesus and say you're close to Jesus and everything and I can't discount your personal experience. I can't speak to your personal experience. That's your personal experience. I'm just wondering how you attach that experience to Jesus of the Bible.
Well,
You would
no, Ralph.
understand if you actually listened
Because
to her
when
and
you
stopped
see him,
Yeah, I
you
interrupting
mean,
her.
know
like,
him.
Ralph, did
When
you
you
come
see
in
him, you
late?
know him.
Because,
I've been
no.
listening. I haven't heard anything from your personal experience that you talk about forgiveness and that's what Jesus is about and all that. But how did your experience attach to Jesus? I
I'll
mean,
tell. I'll
there
tell
are
you.
other religions that teach forgiveness and being nice and all the same sort of concepts as Jesus.
I'll
Well,
tell
then
you.
I would
I'll tell
dispute
you.
the fact or the idea that you have to be religious to be a forgiving person. I think that you can be forgiving and find the value in that
Exactly.
It is true.
applying it to a higher power.
Oh, well, that's fine, but she have a personal experience Jesus revealed to her. That's why I was telling you, you cannot debunk
Whoa,
personal
whoa, 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 whoa,
experience.
whoa, whoa! She
We
didn't
have
say
a
it. She
hundred
didn't
of
say that.
millions of people
Whoa.
She
that
didn't.
Jesus
She didn't.
revealed
Hold
to
on,
Kimmy,
them.
saved by grace.
hold on. Kimmy, can you clarify? Because you didn't say that Jesus revealed what he said. You said he was your bro. You related to what he was teaching. Am I
Yeah. So
misinterpreting that?
no, exactly. You're exactly right. So the most important part, I think, is that I, as a human being, had 6 months of uninterrupted personal time. It's basically like I went into a cave and I just contemplated my life. Okay. And that I contemplated the principles of being a human, okay? And I contemplated deeply about each principle: forgiveness, honesty, faith, truth, this, that, and that is the way that I connected to the message that Jesus offered about forgiveness because he was a teacher. He taught about forgiveness. And he put that down, I picked it up.
So
I got the message
that sounds very
deeply.
valid. That sounds similar to
Yeah.
what the Buddha did.
I
That
I actually got, yeah,
you picked
exactly.
up on the teachings
I got the teaching. It worked for me.
and you got the good. Most of what he teaches is good. So you got the good messages out of it. So I just
Can I
wanted to
add on
point.
to this?
Yeah, go ahead.
I definitely think that it's great that she found the positive aspect of that religion, and I don't see a problem with anyone believing in Jesus or God or any of that, actually. I'm not a firm believer of Jesus or God, but I do believe in the message if it's interpreted properly the way that she did. And, I believe that all religions pretty much talk about very similar things, like unity and not separation. We are in the illusion of separation.
Exactly. And also I just wanted to tell you, Zexio, is that I'm not a Bible thumper. I'm like major new age, like, I don't go to church. Like, I just want to say, I literally met Jesus. He's my bro. Like, I literally met him. I took the message from him that he gave me, and then I went with that. But there's no way I'm Bible thumping anything. Like the rest of the dogma, like garbage, earthbound, just drama, like no,
But don't
So
worry, I definitely understood your vibe. I definitely think that you use it in a productive way. And that's why I was upset when you got interrupted during your point, because I wanted to understand where you were coming from. But, like, I genuinely believe that if that religion was used properly by other people, the world could be a better place. But religious dogma, all that drama is going to cause the demise of humanity.
Well, it's going to cause perpetual conflict because people keep disagreeing about what's true, and which set of rules to follow. So that's part of the problem.
It's not just religion. The problem with a lot of things in humanity is not religion. It's that the lack of critical thinking and being able to question things. Because again, it is
exactly.
just not just religious countries that have an issue. We have very strong ties to governments that are very fascist oriented. And again, they may use religion to help their base, but a lot of it has to do with, again, propaganda and a lot of things to entice people. And it's the same thing with religion. And again, I don't mind people being spiritual, but here's the thing: I want to believe as many true things as possible and as few false things as possible. And that's the thing is if there's not evidence to support what you're claiming, then to me, I cannot believe that it's true. Now, can I feel things and be excited and have some type of spiritual connection? Sure. But question is, can I believe it to be true, or is it just my mind, in essence, putting me into a state? And that's the thing. The mind can do a lot, and I feel like the mind can, in essence, trick us.
Oh yeah.
I personally agree because, your reality is your reality. Like for me,
No,
I
reality
agree.
is reality. Like there's no such thing as your reality. Like
But can I
reality,
answer, or are you going to be disrespectful?
No,
Because I would
he's right
love to
on.
be
He's
able
right
to
on his
reply to
point.
what you
But go
just
ahead.
said.
Go ahead, XC.
So basically, what I was trying to say is that, I understand the need for evidence and all of that because I am a very logic-based person, very science-based at the same time. But I do believe that there is something greater in the world. But at the same time, I believe you're correct about everything else you said about the way that critical thinking is very not commonplace anymore, and that people don't think outside the box of their own understanding. But for me, my belief system is based on myself. It's not based on external means or external gods. It's about being my true authentic self unapologetically and spreading the message of people's own authenticity and not to follow false gods or false prophets.
Why is that a
I mean,
belief system as opposed to just like a philosophy of life?
Well, that's basically what I mean. It's just the way that people see it.
Like secular humanism. I feel like it's pretty much secular humanism. But when you say there's something greater, how do you prove that there's something greater?
You don't.
Then why believe in something if you don't have evidence? I can think, like, for example, let me give you an example. I think that there's probably life on other planets, most likely just because of what we know about the solar system and different planets. But it's not like it's something that controls my life or impacts my life. I just think that there probably, but I don't believe that there is because I don't have good evidence.
Well, for me personally, I believe that needing evidence to believe something is a human-made construct like everything else that we know. It's a made-up construct. So, it depends on my personal experience for
But you
me. If I
don't you want some
experience,
sort of accuracy in what you
yeah,
consider
of
to be
course I
true?
do.
Some confidence.
That's why I'm willing to change my mindset with new information.
I think it all depends on what terminology you're using too. I mean, there's things that you suspect to be true, things that you think might be true, the things you believe are true, and there are things that you have faith in. Those all have different levels of evidence behind them.
I don't personally.
When there's things that you think might be true or suspect might be true that you're taking as are true, that's, I think, where the problem lies.
They're true for me, not for everyone else. It's not an objective truth.
Okay.
There's
Can I weigh in on
no
this
such thing
also?
as a subjective truth. There's no such thing in reality. There's no such thing as a subjective truth.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Londo, what she's trying to tell you is I actually agree with her because if you are open, first of all, if you boxed up and then there's nothing, earlier you were saying it may be just my state of mind, maybe not. But if you are open, there is different things than or supernatural, then you will start experiencing it. That's what she's trying to tell you. If you're not open, if you are closed, and every time when you're experiencing that, oh, it's my psychology, I was on not a good state of mind, you can continue saying that, deny it. But if you are open, whether it's for the God that I believe, which is Jesus Christ, or for the things that she believe, we believe that there is spiritual relief. Then you can tapping into that.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is there's no such thing as subjective truth. It's either true. It doesn't matter if I believe in it or not. So,
Well,
sorry,
someone has background noise.
That's
Oh.
Twitter. I mean,
So-
it's TikTok doing that.
That's what I'm saying. There's no such thing as subjective truth because if it's true, it's true. It doesn't matter if I believe in it or not. If it's true, it is true no matter what.
The beauty of
It wouldn't be
understanding.
like she saw it,
Let me,
it's true, But
Let me add
you
on to
didn't
this.
see it, then yet it's not true. But when you see it, it will become true. Correct?
Well, let me
No.
explain.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
that's
I
why
was
Go
she
ahead,
going.
says
XC. Go ahead,
subjective.
XC.
I was going to
I mean,
explain that we don't have to believe the same things or understand reality the same way. That's why I believe in an objective truth, because you believe personally that there's no subjective truth, but I don't have to think the way that you do. That's the beauty of an individual experience, is we don't all have to think the same.
But subjective truth gets humanity into scary situations. Subjective truth leads us to extreme violence and
So
thinking
does
that
following the herd.
some people are better than others just because of their skin color. So subjective truth, I'm sorry, is not a good way, because subjective truth, yes, it can be a lot of some people like yourself can use it as good, but we've seen that to be used as ultimate can be harmful.
Actually, I've seen more of objective truth being used to
Yeah.
cause chaos and
Claims
destruction than
claims of
subjective
objective truth.
reality.
Yes. Good point.
Because people will claim that something's an objective truth, like the things you just stated, and that's what causes horrible things to happen around the world.
But
Instead of understanding that we all don't have to think the same or have the same think pieces, they force you to think like they do.
Here's the problem. Just saying it's objective truth doesn't make it. What makes it is the facts, the evidence, the testability. So I understand that people will use propaganda to say something is objective truth, but unfortunately, unless people can think and actually look and analyze it, so just because it's not, and hopefully you can see that, is when I consider to be objective truth is something that can be analyzed, tested, and verified. That is repeatable. That to me is objective truth.
And that's fair. I'm a very science driven person myself, but all I'm
Can you
saying
be
is that I
both?
don't have to believe that there is only an objective truth to reality, because if that was the case, everyone would be thinking exactly the same.
Well,
And we don't
no,
want a
because
society like that.
we know that people's minds and experiences are different, so that leads to different
Yes.
subjectivity. But
Exactly.
that doesn't change the
So,
underlying objective truth.
I mean, and
so
also
she
at the
can
same point,
can she be both?
whoa. At the same point, it's like I said back again, it's like you're born in a country, you believe a certain religion. That's what you believe. It's hands down. It's nothing else. It's this way. There's no other way. It's this way or the fucking highway, you know. And I mean, that's what creates war and division, because people, all of us,
Yeah.
like every single religion on earth, we're not taking the time to take into ourselves and ponder, like, what does life mean? Who are we? Like, what's going on? We just adopt this certain ideology and then we fight for it, and we don't even question why we fight for it. We just fight for it because that's what we know is familiar. But that's what creates division.
I
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are still questioning about what they are and are we real and all those philosophical questions. There's still a lot of philosophy going on out there, and it's not the purview of everyone to be a philosopher, and everyone shouldn't be. That's I think it's your mind has got to be wired a certain way to go down that road, and that's not for everyone.
And I feel like having an open mind is the best thing we can all do as human beings, or beings
Having
in
an
general.
open mind, yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I mean,
In
wouldn't we
general, it
all
doesn't
wouldn't we
have to
all
be
stare at the sky and say,
spiritual.
why are we
It
here?
doesn't. It doesn't have to be spiritual or God based. It can
It's
be in
basic.
general
Yeah,
open
it's basic.
mindedness. Sorry, Kimmy.
What's
What?
that, Kimmy?
I'm so sorry. I'm just saying it's like basic. Like, you stare at the sky and you say, what the fuck, like, what's going on here? It's like basic. It's not like I'm a philosopher. I'm just a person on the ground in the grass looking at the sky saying, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah, I'm just a Zedgy and Ox trying to find my way in the universe like everyone else.
I mean,
Exactly.
we have stuff like the James Webb Space Telescope, the Hubble. We launch probes. We look.
Yeah, but none of them can find how the universe started, why we're here, the age-old question.
Well, we will
But what it
never.
comes down to is, like, how are we going to treat each other on this planet? And are we going to fight over these differing beliefs that we have and kill each other?
Well,
And
I
then at the
mean,
same point, a lot of it is obviously political. It's a lot of huevos going on, balls, testosterone, just saying, men, they want to like take over other lands. It's like, it's a human thing. We're humans. It's a bunch of
yeah,
bullshit. We're humans.
yeah, and things would be fine if people had open minds and were willing to talk and discuss and be open about it. The problem comes in mainly with religion, and most atheists that I know of and agnostic have no problem with someone being spiritual, with someone believing in a higher power or whatever. It's when they take that higher power or the book they have or the writings, whatever it may be, and use that to justify enforcing rules from that book and state that it is absolute truth and try to force that on others.
But what
Where
kind
the
of
harm
rules?
comes in.
I'm on your side, but I'm just saying, like, what kind of rules are you talking about?
Well, I mean, look at Afghanistan and how it is treated its women since the Taliban took over. Then there are many people
And
in
look at
Islam who want to restart and
Yeah,
ultimately
Look at
have a
areas in the
global
U.S.
caliphate. So
yeah, but
Look
they're
in the
not
U.S. at areas that are
agnostic.
banning
They're not
books.
atheist or agnostic. They have a certain religion that dictates
no,
what
they
they have to
don't.
do.
No, they don't.
I
That's
guess
secular. That's secular
Ralph
humanism.
Ralph didn't have a problem with Afghanistan, how the women are treated. His problem in the U.S. Go ahead and then let's talk about what you want to say. In U.S., how about what in
Look
U.S.?
at evangelical Christians, like the extreme.
I am talking. One of the biggest things I have a problem with right now is banning of books. There is no good reason to
Banning
ban
the
a book
books.
from a library.
Yep.
I agree.
What kind of books are they?
Any book.
They're about
Any
history.
book.
I mean, the
mostly.
only caveat is something that is porn, and there's a clear definition of what porn is. Yes, that shouldn't be allowed into minors' hands and stuff like that. But barring that, and there's a very clear definition the Supreme Court has set down years ago about what is and what's not porn. But beyond that, a book that's about like Clockwork Orange or whatever, there's lists of banned books that people are proposing and trying to push down on schools and have pushed down schools and various libraries in different areas of banning books. Banning books is just outright wrong.
We're actually talking about political, um, influence here. We're talking about one political side and
But
their beliefs
that
and
is,
why they're banning something.
but
So
that's
it's
religion
obvious.
that's behind that. It's
And
not
Yeah,
political.
it's religion.
trying to force-
It's religion and it's conservatism.
It's
Yeah,
in line with their
exactly.
beliefs. Yeah. So, I
Right.
mean, separation of church and state, that's all I could say. Separation. And that's what they wrote in when the people established this country, they said separation between church and state because we don't want to have the church have influence on the government. But none of those people could see that. They don't see it.
Unfortunately,
think like,
they
oh,
never
this is a
use
Christian
that.
country.
The issue is we have the
Unfortunately, they never use that
liberals.
phrase.
We have the liberals influencing the system.
That's
Okay,
not true.
okay.
Either or
Okay,
no.
hold on a second.
Who was
Saved,
pushing the
saved by
books
grace.
to
Saved by
begin
grace.
with?
Hold on a second. There have been liberals and conservatives in every culture, including when the founders were writing their stuff. The conservatives of the day were the anti-federalists, the ones who were against the Constitution. The ones that were for the Constitution, those were the Federalists, those were the progressives of the day. So it is not just the liberals, okay? It is society always needs a balance to find a balance between these two. There will always be bickering. That's why it's always good to have debate, a system that allows for debate, checks and balances, and compromise. Okay, so don't throw it on top of the liberals and say they're the bad guys.
Okay, I got you. I think you are right, but look at what happened. Like the last 4 years, I don't know if you call them progressive or liberals, but they were pushing a whole lot of agenda. Right now, this guy comes in, conservative, you were saying,
Pushing a lot of
then
agenda,
he
like
is
a lot of agenda, like feeding kids, like
God, I
We're
hope you're not talking
rebuilding.
about trans issues, dude.
No, I mean, you see, he's talking about books. So there was a lot of education in, you can call that as well, transgenderism or LGBTQ or porn and things like that in the libraries, right?
Well,
Now
That's
the balance.
that's a
Hold on a
funny
second.
grouping you just made
Hold
there.
on a second. Now, the balance that the host was talking about, which I agree, there is no balance sometimes, either them pushing their agenda or the conservatives. Now,
What
now they're
agenda are
trying to
they
push
pushing, though?
Bible in the schools, right? Now,
That's
before
not
it
the
wasn't.
liberals.
Hold
All
on.
right,
Before them, the liberals were doing something else,
all right.
which
Hold on a minute. Saved
is
by grace.
which
Hold on.
is
Saved by grace.
now
Hold on a minute.
if you are trying to tell me that they were not pushing any agenda
Let him
into the
finish. Let him
schools,
finish.
there shouldn't be anything
Okay, Saved by
necessary for
Grace.
the
What are
conservatives to
you
come.
referring to? What issues are you referring to then?
Now, what? Yeah. So the schools, the kids were indoctrinating with different kind of
I
genderism
knew this was coming up. We don't want
Okay.
to hear
things like.
this.
No, I do want to hear it because here's the
All
thing.
right.
I
It's not
don't.
indoctrination when you are teaching what's true. That's called education. Okay?
Mhm.
Look at the article above. This is trans issues. We know that there's a sex difference in the human brain between and trans people. This is
Wow,
not
thank you, honestly.
Now, host. Now that is you. Now there is a whole lot of other scientists, which
bye. Bye. Bye.
Knew it was going to go there. Thank
Yep.
you for showing this, though.
This is,
Oh,
there
what?
are true
It's a,
things that
What?
we know, and there are things that we don't know.
Okay,
This
thanks.
is something that we know.
and my whole thing is like a book being there that is about trans or has a female heroine or has stories about back in the days of slavery or whatever it is not indoctrination. Just having the book material there is not indoctrination. Banning it is harmful, period. Having a book available is not.
And
Exactly.
honestly, I think it's stupid to ban books in the year 2025 when we have the internet. Like, there's so much access that these children have that, yes, okay, 30 years ago when we did not have the internet, but I just feel like it's stupid. It honestly is, because if these people want to read the material, banning the book is not going to prevent them from reading the material.
Yeah. Again, we have this anti-intellectualism where people think that they can make a decision, and the opposite opinion is only opinion. There are things we know in science. We know that LGBT is not a choice. You can, you can. How many people do we have to ask? Do you have to ask and hear the answer from that it's
Well,
not a choice? How many
some
times do you
people
have to hear
choose
that deconversion therapy does not work and is psychologically traumatic? How many
some
times do you
people
have to
choose
learn
to hide it.
to not learn until you have a family member or a sister who you then don't learn from because you put them out of the family? I'm tired of this crap. I'm tired of this.
The
I
problem
mean, the
It's
only
really
choice
like,
is some people choose to hide it because they have to, because of the environment they're in, which is sad.
yes.
Yeah,
and it's sad.
it
It's
is.
honestly
And that's
sad.
It's
that's
like
the
when I
thing. Like, sorry,
And
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
go ahead, go ahead.
So for
and if
me, like,
me from
as a
5 years ago
Go ahead.
heard
I
me
want to.
say
I want to
that,
hear from Exy.
he'd
I
be
want to hear
pissed.
from Exy. Go ahead, Exy.
So basically, I'm just glad that you brought this up because, this thing up, because this guy, I knew it was going to that place. And all day I've been debating with people about this because I'm a trans person. I like to learn different perspectives. And it's just such a relief to come into a live and try not to talk about this stuff and then have you prepared in case people bring it up. Like, that was amazing. And I just want to thank you for that.
You're welcome. It is what we
I
know
mean,
to be true, and we have evidence for this now.
exactly. I mean, when I got this boyfriend, he was a lawyer, and I was like, I should have known right at that point. I should have pulled over and kicked him out, but I didn't.
You know,
But then he
I
eventually,
sorry.
it's okay.
I was gonna
And
say
then,
I tell people all
yeah.
the
I
time, go watch.
appreciate being here, but I gotta go. I'll come back after my friend calls.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Have a
All
great
right.
day,
Talk to you soon.
guys.
Bye, Sexy.
I
Bye.
tell people all the time, watch the first 15 minutes of the very first episode, if nothing else, of I Am Jazz, and you'll see a 4-year-old who was born with male genitalia that knew they were a female, never in
Yeah.
doubt, and you can see it in the behavior right off the bat. This is not something that's debatable anymore. The question is why do people disagree with this? And it's because of various psychological discomforts that they
Religion.
have.
Yeah, it's because of religion.
Religion's less an issue on the trans issue. It
I
gets
I
into
think
it gets into
people
the
it
homosexuality issue, but not so much on the trans. The trans
I mean,
issue is people are largely ignorant of stuff like this.
I think
it's
it's people
for
are
for for
uncomfortable
example,
with it and they use their religion to justify a reason to be uncomfortable with it because of and they're uncomfortable because of it's something abnormal to what they're used to or what they grew up with, and religion becomes a justification for why that's bad.
and
Yeah.
I also want to. Sorry, host, go ahead.
No, go
Did you
ahead.
want to say
Go ahead,
something?
Sam.
So, like for example, when I got this boyfriend, all of a sudden we moved to this like really small town, and he started going to a Baptist church, and then I would go to the church, and then they just looked at me like I was the fucking devil, and then so I was just like curious about like what is the Quran about, because like I'm a student of history, I'm a student of the world, I'm like a human being, I want to know what's going on. So I was like studying that, and then like this preacher, he sent his wife to my house, and she said, "Oh, you can't do that." And I'm like, "Look, girl, shit. I'm from New York. You can't tell me I'm not going to study something because I want to know about it." And the point I bring up about New York is just that, we're a melting pot. We're mixed.
Yeah.
Like, I have a brain. I'm like, I'm going to study something because I want to know about it. Like, I want to know what happened with the history. And so it was like at that point it was just like so indoctrinated and ingrained in her that she felt the need to tell me that I couldn't study as a student of life. I couldn't study like another religion. I couldn't
Yeah.
study what trans is. I couldn't study what homosexuals like. I'm from New York. I grew up with this all my life, so I
Yeah.
accept everything, everybody,
I
and
find
I
it's
also know
I find it similar the idea that you cannot read the Quran or study the Quran if you're not reading it in Arabic. I think that's ridiculous.
it's ridiculous. And also, like, what was it, Einstein in like 1950? He discovered the atom. I mean, for fuck's sake, like, who knew about DNA? Or the atom in a molecule, like nobody knew about this stuff. It was all like we're living in the dark ages. Like people do not understand the fact that other people could be different, like a trans or LGBTQ. Like it just they're fearful of it because they're based on old paradigms, and they're based on old people teaching them and passing down what they knew.
Yeah.
And so, it's like the dark ages,
It also has to
you
do
know.
with simplistic thinking, because obviously most people are sex matches gender, right? 95%, whatever exact numbers are, and most people are born XX or XY. But there are XXYs and XYYs, and there are XXs who look male and the opposite because of all the hormones and because of the way your body's DNA happens to work out. So all these variants exist, and sometimes there are people out there that are not male or female by classical definition. There just are, just like there are people born with one arm, you know. So this whole
Exactly.
idea that you only have to be one or the other because that's not the typical norm, is opening up for ignorant discrimination. And that is exactly what this administration just started out with. They're going to they're going to cause damage, and there will be people who want to live themselves because of the stress that it
it's
takes.
so archaic, like it's so archaic, and like we're living literally in the dark ages. And it's like we need to build a task force of support for
Yeah.
people, so that they don't, they have someplace to go.
Well,
And I mean, I know there's so many organizations already out there that
yeah, we do have a good
even if
model
they're
for it, right? Because we went through this with gay people, right? And it took a generation or longer than a generation from around the Kinsey Report in the 70s all the way up to arguably when gay marriage was passed, right? For acceptance of gay people and seeing them written to television shows and having more than 50% of the population or 50% of the states support gay marriage, having some conservatives supporting LGBT family members and things like that. So that has been a very slow shift, but it did happen. So we have that model, but there's this over the top stubbornness on the trans issue, which is it seems to me stronger than we've ever seen on the other LGBT letters, and it's more dangerous because they are victims of violence more often, and they are victims of unaliving more often, statistically. So why,
yeah.
for anybody's sake, would you want to have a law that points these people out, labels them as non-existent, and then takes medical help away from them? Makes no sense to me.
Exactly. And it's like, who, why do these other people care about what one individual wants to do
Mhm.
with their life, their life, that they
Yeah.
have this time on earth and this is their experience. Like, why would anybody else's opinion have merit over their opinion? Like, look the fucking other way, man. Like, mind your own
because
business.
Yeah.
because they think their book justifies that because of what it says.
On the
And that's
homosexuality
where
issue.
separation of church and state needs to happen, because it's like, people,
Well,
they say, we're born in a Christian nation and we need to be Christian. Look, dude, look, bro, we're not, like, I am not Christian, okay? I don't believe what you believe.
yeah.
And I'm a free person. I deserve to have a life that I want, whether I'm straight, gay, trans. Like, just leave me alone. I'm just
Well,
living as a person.
it does go beyond separation of church and state, because separation of church and state is only a federal thing, right? It says the federal government, religion cannot be a way to,
The
what's the
will
phrase,
make
Ralph?
no law respecting establishment of
Establish,
religion.
not
But
religion.
what do you mean? State has a issue with that?
No, it's a federal law in the Constitution. It's part of the Constitution that says religion
Right.
cannot use to be discriminated against anybody, roughly. Um, so that protection allows religion to continue without one ever becoming dominant. That's the whole point of it. And the Supreme Court has already justified that um, that non-belief has equal protection to belief. So we already have that determination down in there, and that's solid. So it's only the Christian nationalists that are trying to reverse that. However, separation of church and state does not come in terms of how you should, as a law at least, in terms of how you should behave as a person or at the state level. That's just human decency,
Which apparently we have none of.
which apparently we are in short supply of right now. Yes.
Yeah. Short supply is like a very nice way of putting it. I mean,
Well, I
we're
mean,
like,
among the 50% who voted for, those who support those positions.
yeah, but why can't they just live their own life
I,
on their
I
property
wish I
and let
knew.
the rest of us live? Like, why?
I wish I knew. I mean, not wanting to admit they're wrong, wanting to.
$1 million question.
Yeah, I mean there are ways that I can bring up a slide. There are some things that we know of, and other things that we just don't know the answer to. It's under my false belief slide. But I mean, some of them don't apply to this thing, like the fear based thinking and stuff like that.
I mean, I feel like also, I mean, I'm just saying, like the age of Aquarius. I know I sound crazy again, but you know, the Vedic cycle of ages, if you were to ever look into that, because I have, but I mean, the last 2,300 years were the age of Pisces, which was the age of bringing in, you know, like the Christ ages, bringing in forgiveness, teaching us not to sacrifice children and animals on the whatever, you know, bleed them, that we didn't need that, that to be forgiven, we could forgive ourselves on our own event. And
Yeah.
then the age of Aquarius is like, so the age of Aquarius is like humanitarian, it's like all of us. And then diametrically opposed to Aquarius is Leo, and it's like Leo is me. It's like me. It's like Gandhi. Like be the change. Be the change
Well,
in yourself.
you always will have cycles in a society, right, of some sort, because you've got this very broad conservative versus progressive thing, which is don't make change, don't make waves, keep things predictable, keep things safe, and this other have concern for each other, empathy for each other, learn new things, be willing to always try to make things one step better than it was before, at the risk of coming up with some new and unknown result or something like that. And these things are always going to be in competition, and you're going to get cycles that kind of swing back and forth. But if things go well, if your governments and societies are structured properly, or at its best, then it'll not have the extremes. Now we're in an extreme that we've never been in this country. We're in an extreme now that Germany in the 40s stepped into, and it is not
Exactly.
that they were horrible people. Those were good people that were susceptible to manipulation and had opinions modified by authoritarians, and that's exactly what we're seeing now. And
Exactly. It's like, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, it's okay. It's enough.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. It's like the 70s to the 80s, like the 60s and 70s, like the hippie culture, and then the pendulum swung
Big
way
time.
far the other way, all the way to the other way, like the 80s, 90s. You're
Yeah.
talking like the 80s, like David Bowie, like the spacesuits, like from hippies to like space. It's like a pendulum that swings back and forth and back and forth. And we're
Yeah.
just trying to work it all out. And also at the same time, it's like, you know, we're just evolving, and that the change of an era is very messy. It's very messy. Like it's messy right now. It's really messy. And we just have to, like, I felt like maybe when I was a kid, just because I was a kid in the 70s and the 80s, I felt like, you know, things were fine, you know, things were good. They were not good.
They
And
were
I
okay.
didn't
I
know it
mean,
because I
depends on
was
who
a
you were.
kid.
Depends on who you were, but
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. So it's like, you know, but right now, I
yeah.
mean, even maybe if you're a kid, you don't realize what's happening. But right now, even as young adults, we realize that things are tumultuous, and like the foundations are breaking up. You know what? Because they need to break up. They need to break up. And accepting the fact that um, these foundations are breaking up, and that people are, you know, waking up, quote unquote, and saying we're upset with what's happening. We don't want it. We want a different way. I mean, we need that. But at the same time, while it's happening, it's really upsetting, you know? But it's
Well,
a good
but
thing.
people are being let down the wrong road, though. They're unhappy with the prices of bread and eggs and everything like that, and they're blaming the wrong people. they're being manipulated into blaming the wrong people, which is going to end up making the process worse. Taking back to the 60s for a second, the 60s were obviously there were a swing in the empathy and love direction, and the free love and drugs and stuff, but the balance back from that was really in the 80s when you started the focus in the family and the efforts of that generation's religious right to put that teaching into colleges and create the lawyers and slowly get into the governments into government. We are just seeing the outcome of that now, and at the very earliest in the Bush 2 generation, but largely we're seeing that now. I thought it was going to be swinging back with Kamala Harris. However, apparently not yet. So it's going to get bad before it gets worse.
And also, like, let me just say one thing right quick. Like, the 60s were a direct response to the 50s, where everything was like really uptight. Nobody talked about anything. Shit was going on, but like nothing was free. It was very tight,
It was
40s and
yeah.
50s.
Fear of
And so the
communism
60s were
was the big driver.
communism, but and also like like America in the 50s, was very very uptight, very like the
Victorian
woman's the
almost.
woman,
Kind of
yeah,
Victorian.
Victorian,
Yeah.
yeah. So we're like, what the fuck of that, it's like
Yeah.
that's why the 60s was like such an explosion of
Yeah.
diametrically opposed ideologies and expression, which makes sense, and then it swept into the 70s, which of course is the best music, and the 60s, the best music ever in the entire world.
I don't know. Some people say the 70s was like the worst music, but I'm actually not of that opinion either. But
I think that's a subjective truth.
yeah. Yeah,
No,
there you
no,
go.
dude.
That's definitely a
What era are you
subjective.
from?
I was born in 58, so but then I'm not really a
Yeah.
music person, so.
I was born in 74.
All right.
So
So
you were like
you're Gen
10 and
X then.
80. Oh, the 80s, man. I don't know. The
No,
big
I'm
hair. Oh
more
my God. The
I'm more
hairspray. Oh.
90s than 80s.
90s, I felt like were a little depressing. But, they had to be depressing because they had to make up for the 80s and the 70s and the 50s. And so it's all a
Cringe.
progression,
I
It's
don't
just,
Yeah,
know. Like,
most things politics and stuff is all a response to something else.
I don't know. The 90s, I think, were good. I mean, I don't
I
remember the
like
90s being bad.
Yeah, no, the 90s were the Clinton years. They were actually pretty good, except for, although, to be perfectly honest, the seed was planted for what we have now, which was dropping the fairness doctrine that happened in the Clinton years in the 90s. And that has resulted in Fox News and that whole generation of being able to have um, media's media outlets owned in the same area, so you could own the television and the cable channel and the radio station and the newspaper all in the same town. So the differences of opinion, the conflicting opinions. Remember all the point counterpoint type shows there used to be that we don't have now. All we have is point, which is advocacy journalism at its best or propaganda at its worst.
well, who watches the news? Like I get my news from TikTok.
Yeah, actually nowadays, yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna watch the news. They're gonna tell me 3 days later what I learned on TikTok like 3 days ago.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
like,
true.
I already heard that. Okay.
Yeah,
I saw like a firsthand
yeah.
account of that. But I mean, I'm
What's your favorite
52.
news source on TikTok?
TikTok. I mean, I have a lot, like Aaron Parnas,
Aaron. Okay, yeah. Aaron
Aaron
Parnas, Under the Desk
Parnas, and
News.
the Under the Desk,
Yeah, she's good.
Under the Desk. And then,
But
I'm a
Aaron's brand
scroller.
new. He's only been doing it for what, less than a year, I think. So
He's like 25, but he was a lawyer. He went to law school when he was 16. He was a lawyer at 22.
wow,
He's from Ukraine. His family's from Ukraine. That's why he started
yeah, his love partner's his son,
broadcasting on
isn't he?
TikTok anyway, man. He's fucking smart, man.
Yeah, he is.
I
I
mean,
like
he
him.
just like he just reports what's going on. Of course he's like a Democrat, but
Yeah,
he does have like that edge,
yeah,
but so am I. So, I align with that. And then also under the desk, and she's LGBTQ,
yeah.
but they're just like reporting like the daily things when it comes up. But I scroll through, I listen to everything, and mostly I listen to people accounts of that's why I feel TikTok is so important, because we can get like actual personal experience aside from AI, which is very difficult now
Well, you'll be able to get
to.
that on other outlets. The reason I like TikTok is because we can do this. We can have these conversations where audience is brought to a content creator.
I mean,
To
can you imagine that?
because
Yeah,
things like what Aaron Purnis does is basically give information out, and we can do that on Instagram, and Bluesky now is picking up, and things like that. But it's this type of
yeah.
interaction, this live interaction, and of course all the businesses, the small businesses that people are operating on TikTok that are
It's
unique to TikTok.
really incredible. It's so incredible that
Yeah.
because like when the Gen X thing happened, I mean, I was literally talking to people. Like, I'm from New York, okay? I'm a Yankee. Not that I stand for any of that, but I'm just saying, I never went to the South. But I was on so many lives with people in the South, and their lives are like so cool. Like
Mm.
they 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 live off the land, they have farms, they have houses, rivers, and like I really grew to
Why do you use the word
understand
cold on
their
there?
life.
That's an odd word for that, for farm life.
Wait, what?
Did you use the word cold? Their lives are cold?
No, I said cool.
Oh, cool. Oh, okay. I
Yeah,
didn't
they're
quite catch
cool.
that.
Like I love them.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Uh,
it really brought me closer to them,
yeah.
and it just
Some of
it
my
just
favorite people to watch on social media are the people who live off their land. What do you call that? There's
homesteader.
homesteaders. Yes. Yeah.
Oh my God, I watch that all day. I wish I could do like one thing that they do.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, it's like TikTok has been miraculous and really beneficial for my mental health and bringing me closer
Yeah.
to people like you, that I'm sitting here in my house in Southern California and I'm talking to you, people, all of you.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
like
It's cool.
it's amazing. It's so good.
Well, I hope it stays.
And
Well, we got another 30-day countdown here going on,
I know it's horrifying.
so I don't know what's going to happen.
I mean, when TikTok closed for that night, I cried. Like I
Yeah.
literally
Yeah.
cried. I was crying. I was just it was so hard, to deal with. And I never had Instagram, but I downloaded Instagram just so I could try to connect with people. And now, the whole political thing that Meta owns it and
I just filled
things
my
like
time with
that.
watching Red Note.
I just got Red Note too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they said don't say anything political on Red Note, because it was women in China that designed Red Note.
Well,
Um,
it's run by the Chinese government, and they do censor it and monitor it for their control system.
Yeah.
well,
I'm not
I,
going to go to Red Note. We'll see
I mean,
what comes up
well, I'm
next
just
if
saying,
TikTok goes away. But
like I work at a pharmacy by Disneyland in California,
hmm
and I have this girl. She comes in for NAM, the National Association for Music Merchants. It's like this massive convention, and she came in a couple days ago, and she said, "I remember you from, last year we had this conversation about recycling and bags and plastic, And so she gave me her contact, and she said, you should sign up for Red Note. But she also told me, don't talk about politics on Red Note. Like, I don't know anything. Like, I'm old enough to not know the rules of social
Are we allowed
media.
to ask the atheist anything?
Yeah, Nelson, we've been sort of shooting
All right.
friendship here for a bit. So hey, welcome in.
I have a question.
Yes, what's up?
What percentage of Saudi Arabia is inbred? I have no
Let's
idea.
see. I don't know. I'm assuming that's
Inbred
not a
by what?
serious
Because
question.
Saudi Arabia, the Saudis are the family that have taken over Arabia. The country used to be called Arabia. Like, remember that movie,
Yeah,
Lawrence of
let's
Arabia?
not take that question seriously. I just
Oh, sorry,
it
sorry.
just has
Okay.
the sound of being cruel. So
I do like to argue. Just
not on that
I
one.
missed it, Phil. What was the question?
He's talking about Saudi Arabians being inbred. It just does not sound like a decent question.
What? What the?
Yeah.
Sir,
You want to talk
why?
about inbred? Talk about English kings, okay?
Royalty, yes.
Yeah. So
the guys with the big jaws.
make another request and I'll let you back in. But I don't just let's stay off of that topic. If you were trolling me, then be ready to. Okay, he's coming back in. We'll give him another shot.
What time do you go to bed?
I find it quite ironic that you're willing to discuss white people's inbreeding but not Middle Eastern. Why is that, sir?
Okay, let's talk about something else.
Fucked out. Did your wife let you watch from the corner? Or?
Okay, what would you like to talk about besides that question?
Why are you so okay with talking about English inbreeding but not Middle Eastern? Are you that scared,
All right,
sir?
so make a
Are you that
point.
scared? You have no
I don't
freedom.
because it easily
No, because you're
sets.
cucked out and you're scared.
Okay.
No, bro, make a point.
That
Like,
didn't-
land your
okay.
plane.
The thing that got him
Fuck.
dropped right there is he said because, and then put his thoughts of what was in my head as I was trying to explain to him what was in my head. So that'll also get you bumped.
Who even brought up inbreeding in the first place? It was him.
Well, he brought it up.
Right, but
so
that was a nonsensical response there by him saying, "Why are you willing to talk about, white people inbreeding, but not in the Middle East?"
I was about to answer, so I will answer that. I will answer that. It's because it is prone to leading to prejudice and making society worse right now. Okay. So we know that we have a problem with Islamic prejudice. I'm not a fan of Islam, and I don't want caliphates and such like that, obviously. However, I don't want Islamophobia growing in this country. So it leads in that direction. So if you have a serious question, I would have let you in, but or I would have let you back. But the second time when you came in, and tried to put comments into my mouth, that gets you dropped.
The problem is that we can't stereotype a group of people or a whole religion. That's the problem, no matter what.
Yeah.
There's bad apples in many groups, and we can call out the hypocrisy and try to convince these people to stand against this type of violence.
Yeah.
But we can't sit here and be okay with this type of behavior towards any group of people.
Right.
Or any religion.
And I mentioned the English kings because they're no longer around. So it's
The Habsburgs.
Yeah. You want to make the debate the argument about people should not inbreed, we can have that discussion from a scientific perspective. But it sounds like it's going to lead to something political. So that was
honestly, I believe the Middle East will go through an enlightenment, and I believe that they are just a little bit behind when Europe went through theirs.
I don't know. I have a hard time on that one of deciding. I know there's a generally there's a disagreement of whether or not there should be moderation within Islam, or it should be they should work toward minimizing the practice of the religion at a societal level, at an advocacy level. Let me put it that way. It's I suspect it's going to again get worse before it gets better, because Islam is a very fast growing religion, and it is going to be the dominant religion globally at around 2050, 2060 or so by current trends. So it's going to exert more influence, and probably be the source of more conflict as the next couple generations go through, and probably carry us into the 2100s. So before
Yes, but
it goes the other way.
but I believe that we can help them. And we see, like in Iran, where the younger generation is not really following things of the theocracy, and they're not being punished. And so I believe that you will see the younger generations in some of these countries change.
I think you're right. I think they've already changed. But the problem is the power structure. It has not changed, and the power structure is the one those are the ones who have the ability to put down massive public outcry. And until that shifts, I don't see it. I don't know enough about political movements really to know how that's going to play out. We've seen too many of them over the last 20 years be put down, and that's a very sad thing. We have a few that have gone the other way, like in Venezuela. But then again, we're also seeing democracies going into authoritarianism, whether be it theocratic authoritarians or not. So there's kind of a mixed bag right now.
I mean, could I ask you a question
Mhm.
about when you say Islam is going to become like the major religion? Is that because you feel like they're going to infiltrate like they have in England and so many European states? Like, are you saying that their overwhelming presence is going to change?
No, that's
The
actually literally just based on the Pew Research studies, and the trend that's going on. It's growing. To my knowledge, I haven't looked at the most recent one, but to my knowledge, it's growing very rapidly in Indonesia. Um, it is growing in Europe in a similar degree, to a smaller degree, as to some degree that will be countered by the more right wing movements that are being coming into power. Um, Although generationally it is a faster growth religion, just like some forms of Christianity have a quick growth because of the birth rates. Um, but that's just based on the Pew Research numbers that show that the trend and the growth on a global level. I don't mean to imply that it should grow, or I think it's a bad thing, because I think it's just as false as Christianity, so it's not based on truth and reality.
Right, right. No, I I don't believe that you think it's a good thing. I'm just wondering how, like how would you come to that conclusion? And, is it because they're spreading out, because, they're becoming parts of other countries and they're, changing, like, I've been watching all the uprising in England. They're saying we want to take our country back, and people that have been very upset that they've been kind of taken over because they're really small. Like the size of Connecticut, for fuck's sake. You know what I mean?
Well,
And to read
whenever you allow a group to practice different set of laws from your civil law, you're setting yourself up for a problem. So I know
So
there
what
are
the Pew Research says is this significant projected growth is largely due to the young age and high fertility rate of Muslims relative to other religious groups.
All right, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yep, that makes sense.
yeah. And I know there was a problem in London a couple of years ago. I remember reading about it, where there was a certain neighborhood. I don't know how big it was, where there was a concentration of Muslim. I don't know if they were immigrants or born to, but they had reached like a 10% of the population of the local population, and they basically uh, allowed them to practice Sharia law within that community. And anytime you have, and I see the same problem with Mormons in Utah in the United States, anytime you have a
Exactly.
population that's allowed to practice a different set of laws than the civil government around it, that is a setup for um, well, at worst violence and at best unfairness.
I mean, what you're talking about is like a slow, insidious, quiet, you know, um,
It's a slow moving coup, is what it is.
yeah, but you know, it's like
Theocratic
what they
coup.
say about they say if you change 1 degree of your target, it's going to make a huge impact when it gets, you know, yards away.
Yeah,
Even if you just change something 1 degree, like,
I don't know.
you
That
know,
may
it's
be
gonna.
that's overstating, at least in my opinion. It's not on my position. I don't know if it's a slippery slope. I mean, I know that there is an attempt to make Sharia in places where there's 10% population representation. There is a desire to restart caliphate and have a global caliphate. Um, and we have the example now of Afghanistan, where the Taliban is completely in charge, and you have laws that have been just getting worse and worse and worse. Women have to completely cover up with black, and now even their hands have to be covered. Now they're not. Women are not allowed to be educated. Women are not allowed to talk to each other. Was the one that came out like 3 or 4 weeks ago. So it's just moving further and further back to the
I mean,
pure 700s.
but at the same time, financial interests are also going to be, you know, a compounding force
What do you mean by that?
against that. Well, let's say China, for example, or, you know, because of AI, you know, like, you know, they have influence and they have a lot of holding in this company, in this country, um, real estate holdings and whatnot, and uh, commercial interest and intelligent interest. Um, you know, so it's like just because you have an earth-based religion doesn't mean that they're going to take over. I'm just saying, like,
Oh no, not necessarily. But at least you don't want a religion to become dominant, because then you go against what's true, and you go against science, and when you go against science, you go against progress, technological research, money put for research, those types of things. So I mean, Islam is the fundamentalists are largely creationists also.
I mean, I'm definitely against any religion coming and taking over. So,
Yeah,
I mean, as much as I'm a Democrat and for immigration, I realize what you're saying. Like, if
yeah.
we're seeing like 50 years out, if we allow, you know, people to come in, it's not like they're gonna assimilate. You know,
I don't
they're
know
gonna
about that.
bring
They
their.
could assimilate. There's been I've met a lot of Muslims that have assimilated quite well. So that may be too strong a statement too. It
Yeah,
really is a question of how expansionary is the group, and
it's a tricky situation because,
it is.
you know, Islam is, you know, like a religion of love, but then you have like the extremists that want to bring in Sharia law and things like that,
Yeah.
you know, which we don't agree with in this country. But
It may
then if
it
they,
may be a religion of love in some teaching, but it has expanded itself over the history, in probably some of the most violent ways, second only to the Christian Crusades. So, and of course, we've seen what's happened in modern times. So,
Correct me if I'm wrong. Did you just say that Islam was a religion of love?
I say that I'm less familiar with it, but there are some elements to it because I've known some Muslims practice. For example, they care for their poor very well. They are group supportive. Yeah, and they are group supportive in against racism too, in general, which is a nice thing. And I'm talking about racism, not religion, because they don't mind about race as long as you practice the religion. Doesn't matter what your race is, although they can be
But
prejudiced against you if you are not practicing their religion.
but is that just the religion being true about love, or maybe those people using secularism to change their view to use their religion towards a better view? Like,
I don't remember, to be perfectly honest, because it's been too long since I've read the Quran. So
and I think
I
it's
don't
the same.
remember. We don't talk about it as much as we do in Christianity. So I'd have to actually go back and read it again and refresh my mind about what some of the passages are. I remember a lot of nasty passages.
And a lot of Christianity, and again, Christianity, a lot of the Enlightenment had played a role with, again, secular humanism brought a lot of Christianity to a better time than it was in the past.
And that's a good thing.
It is.
That's a good thing.
But it's not but it's not because the religion in itself, the basis of the religion is about love. It's just that people change.
Well,
And
that was overstated on my part in terms of my current knowledge. So I'm doing that. I was doing that based on honestly my own experiences with progressive Muslims over here that want to assimilate and have been trying very hard to assimilate. I used to did some work with an interfaith group for a couple of years.
And
here.
also, just saying, I was the one that said it was based on love, just because, like, of what I know about the religion, excluding extremists, that the religion is based on love. So please don't attack the host, because not that you are, but I'm just saying,
Okay. If he was
I was the
challenging me,
one
and
that
that's
commented
okay.
about that, and I just want to make it clear, like, he was responding to my statement about, them being based on love, which I feel like is an original concept of their religion, withholding the extremist view. So, if, and also, I also can't answer exact questions about that. But as far as my, memory serves me, that, it is a religion based on, morals. And I'm not talking about extremists outside of that. That's what I, I think that I know. So, you know what? I may be completely wrong. I'm not sure, but it was me,
I'm looking stuff. I'm looking something up here, and to say it's based on love is too strong. There are aspects of love within the book, which is more reasonable. Let's see a quick Google search. There are refer to the Quran to find meaning in every aspect of our life. There is meaning of love. Love is widely mentioned, such as divine qualities of Allah. Affectionate, loving, just to name a few. Not merely defined as an action, but also as one of the defined divine names. Plays a significant part in human lives, but also in the whole of creation. So it's an aspect of the religion. I don't know how dominant it is without reading the whole book again. So
I mean, I might be a little bit, gullible, because I always lean towards love and acceptance, because I feel like that's the progressive way to go. I don't want to say the word progressive because it gives like negative connotation
Well,
to
it's the
someone.
humanist way to go.
It's just the humanist way. It's just like intellectual way. Like
Yeah.
we're a progressive planet. We have eras that we go through. We learn from the people that came before us,
Mhm.
and then we're in the now. We experience this, and then people after this are going to learn from what we went through. So
But we do progress. We do progress. We do
we do,
progress over time.
yeah.
We have backsteps. We do progress over time, though. Things do tend to get better. There is less violence now, as much as there is. There is less violence now than there ever has been. Um, you look at Steven Pinker's The Better Angels of Our Nature to see that. It used to be like every third male would die of being a soldier in somebody else's war, um, and things like that. We have gay marriage
But
now. Hopefully that's going to stay. Um, and hopefully this time when it stays, it'll stay permanently without every consideration of being taken away again. That's something I hope to see after these 4 years are over.
I mean, do you feel like we're living in like the dark ages?
No,
And that we really still have so far to progress as human beings and being able to love one another and
we're
not
we're
fight
we're
about
in a
land.
period where human knowledge has advanced tremendously because the ability and the technology and the tools of science and everything have taught us so much. Look at just follow somebody from like the science researchers from the JWST, and you see how much we learn every week now about the universe, and some of these are questions, um, but we are limited as humans by the psychology based on the evolution that we have gone through, and we do not change that quickly. It takes many generations to change. So the
Right.
technological advance has overtaken our psychological ability to cope with it, and that's where we're
Oh,
at right
yeah.
now.
Wow. Yeah,
And
wow.
and the only
It's
thing that's
heavy.
going to help us move along quicker to stay up with it is cultural change. So we need things like national education standards to teach people that stuff like this should be shunned, and people should be embarrassed to walk around saying they disbelieve in evolution, because it's not going to happen at an evolutionary level. That's going to take 10 to 20,000 generations. So we need to teach it at a cultural level.
You know, I hear that, but it's like a little unnerving about the current president when he wants to take away the education system and implement who
Yeah.
knows what, you know.
Well, some of that comes from Project 2025, which is, to be fair to Trump, not his idea, because there's the simplistic idea that the government should be only doing um, should only be doing what the Constitution says, which is things like um, uh, treaties and armies, and leave everything else to the states and local.
What? I don't think anything is his idea. I don't think he has ideas. He just surrounds himself with idiots who have ideas.
Well, yeah. I mean, he doesn't have ideas in the sense because he lives in the moment. It seems to me, and he makes his decisions in the moment. So I don't think he has. Well, he's got a little bit, but that's my
I
interpretation of it.
I feel like it's actually about revenge and retaliation because I'm from New York and I know
Well, we haven't seen
throughout
that yet,
his
so
entire history of New York that
yeah,
he has not paid the companies like small business owners
yeah.
that he
I don't want to get
hired
into
to.
I don't want to get into that.
Okay,
That's
sorry,
going to
sorry.
be a topic I don't want to
Yeah,
touch. But
I got
you know,
you.
it's more of the people who wrote Project 2025 want the government to be as small as possible, and I think piece of that is out of fear that the government's going to take us over, kind of a thing, which is an irrational fear. And yet they're turning out to be the ones that do exactly that. But you're going to have problems with once you take away certain types of oversight and regulations. You're gonna have problems with disease and companies getting away with stuff that they shouldn't be allowed to get away from. And if we do things like getting rid of FEMA, which was what came up this week, oh, thank you for the follow. Then we're going to have problems that cannot be solved because there are some problems which are too big to be solved at the local and state level. So you need, if nothing, if only by dollars from a federal level, you're going to need those um, groups to exist, like FEMA, like the Department of Education. So we're going to go into a period where we have some problems that, particularly in climate change, that are uncontrollable and not dealt with properly, cleanly.
I mean,
Who's got what
also
state? FEMA's got like whatever 50,000 domiciles, like mobile homes and stuff, ready for people that are victims of storms. You cannot replicate that in every state, right? And why would you want to? It's just even in terms of dollars, that makes no sense. So
I mean, the scary part is that the current president has, you know, the three, most important bodies, the judicial system,
yeah,
this Congress, he has the House. So it's like at this point, I mean, of course, if he wants to run a third term, there's a lot of loopholes he has to go through, blah, blah,
no,
blah. I
there
don't want to
there are
talk
no
about it, but
loopholes. It's just not
He'd have
legal.
to. They have to change the Constitution to do that. There has been a proposal to do that.
right.
However, to change the Constitution, you need the House and Senate to approve it. Then you need 2/3. I think it's 2/3 of the
Yeah,
states
yeah,
to
yeah.
It's
approve
three
it,
fourths,
and
three
that's the
fourths, three fourths of the
three
states.
fourths, and that's just not going to happen. It's
Right.
completely
Right.
unrealistic.
Yeah.
Right. But aside
And
from
what
that,
what
it's like, he could potentially pass a lot of things with his influence and with the people that are in charge right now. He could pass a lot of his ideas, but you know what? On the bigger picture, if you take your camera lens and you're like dialed in on America, but you widen your lens way back to the whole earth, it's like, you know what? This is going to happen. I mean, whatever happens is going to happen,
It is
and
going to
it's just going to
happen.
be part of our history. It's going
It
to be
is.
part of our
It's going to
history.
be a
And
dark
that things
period of
will change.
history.
They won't stay like that. They're going to change. There will be,
Yeah.
you know,
I'm concerned about the
an
climate change.
evolution of some point.
The climate change. We're not gonna deal with climate change for 4 years, and that's just gonna make the problem that much worse. Anyways, I'm gonna get off politics, so I think I'm gonna wrap up for the night here. Kimmy, it's been very nice to meet you. I want to
Thank you
say
so much, host. I really love you, and thank you so much for letting me talk.
enjoyed the
And I really
conversation. Thank
appreciate
you,
being here.
Ralph, as usual.
I followed you.
Thank you, Londo, and Don. Did you have anything you wanted to say, add, Don? As you haven't had a
I did
chance to
actually,
talk.
but I was just waiting till
Go ahead.
everybody's
Take a turn. What would you like
set
to
the
talk
point.
about?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm agnostic. I grew up Christian, however. But yeah, I guess I just don't really find a lot of those ideas convincing anymore. I wanted to talk about evolution, I
Okay.
guess. That's come up a bunch of times, and it's also like in the text here on the screen. So, and I guess there's an aspect of evolution, which, because obviously Darwin, right, came up with the idea, or at least popularized it. There was another aspect of it which I don't think is talked about enough, which is often referred to as Darwin's doubt.
What is that?
it's this idea that if you accept evolution as how we currently understand it, right? It's this random process, and then natural selection does this, thing afterwards, and then basically whoever's most adaptable to the environment, that's who survives.
Okay. Yeah, that's
And
reasonable. Yeah.
Darwin's doubt sort of he wrote like a letter to one of his friends saying, well, if my theory is true, then he was basically questioning the process's ability to give us like minds which can actually be relied upon, right? And his doubt was that, well, if it's just random and it helps us to survive, that doesn't necessarily mean that our actual minds are reliable. They're just the most survivable, if that makes sense.
Well, the human mind
Most
is
adaptive, rather. Yeah.
in terms of evolution, it is good enough to do what it does, right? Because all you have to do is be one better than your competitor. So, and it doesn't lead you to the best in terms of any sort of morality, if that's where you're going. That's actually a naturalistic fallacy to say that if it comes from nature, it's a good thing.
No, I didn't mean it from a moral point of view. I meant it from more of I think his point was that if it's just an unguided random process,
right?
How can we trust it to produce minds which are in fact actually able to be reliable rather than just minds which just survive from generation to generation?
Are you referring to the book Darwin's Doubt and that whole?
No, he's referring.
No, because that's like an
That's
intelligent design kind of
yeah,
argument.
yeah.
No,
That's a
I'm not.
different one. Here it says
Yeah, it's
in
that
the
is a
letter.
title of a book by Michael B. But no, I was not
Yeah,
referring to that. His
Darwin.
doubt in particular was about just how can we trust our brains when we know that the ultimate goal or it's actually, you can't even call it a goal. The ultimate result of evolution and natural selection is that whatever is most adaptable is what survives, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you could look at, for example, the state of the world today. Like a lot of people have a lot of crazy beliefs, right? And one of them, right, is that the majority of the planet believes in God, right, in some way, or spiritual in some way, or whatever. But that is a false belief. However, it's so prevalent, right? So we know that evolution can produce these prevalent false beliefs.
Yeah.
Right. So we kind of just take it for granted that our beliefs are correct. However, we know evolution can produce false beliefs because they help us to survive. And it's like, how do you make that distinction?
Yeah.
Like, can you be satisfied ultimately with your own mind
Well,
if you know that
I think you can. It's the best we have. I mean, let me read this from Google. It says, in the letter, Darwin expressed his horrid doubt about the trustworthiness of human convictions. He questioned whether convictions developed from the minds of lower animals could be trusted. He also expressed the belief that the universe was not the result of chance, which is the result of essentially physics, of chance in physics. Darwin was concerned that evolution might cause people to doubt metaphysical and theological beliefs, or beliefs based on intuition rather than evidence. Well, his concern there was unfounded, because I mean it's a good thing if people doubt metaphysical and theological beliefs, because those have turned out to not be true. So that's actually a good thing. It might cause people to doubt. I'm not sure if this is the sentence or the phrase. Beliefs based on intuition rather than evidence. Beliefs based on intuition are the evolutionary piece, where you make a first impression of decision that's just good enough to be better than a different decision, but it is not likely to be the one that is necessarily true. So intuition based decision making is inferior to evidence and logic. So his worry is not a problem there. The letter was used to support the idea that Darwin worried that his theory of evolution would lead to global skepticism. That would be a good thing if we had global skepticism, because it would get people more toward wanting to know what is actually true and not falling back on metaphysical and theological beliefs. Remember, he was a product of his time, and when he started his journey, he was a very strong theological person, and his wife, we all know, was, and did not like the idea that his theories or his hypotheses were leading to taking away the necessity of God. So he had these doubts, but the doubts were not problematic. You know, they were the hypothesis was leading us toward true things and better ability to think if we realize that our intuitions were not that accurate, then we should pay more attention to teaching ourselves critical thinking and get around our bias and be aware of our bias.
Well, I think nowadays,
stay close to your phone. You're a little quiet all of a sudden.
Hold on. Is this better?
Yeah, terrific.
Yeah.
Okay. Like the mic is damn near in my mouth now. It's my gaming headset. Yeah, no, I guess how I understand his doubt is to do with, it's not the fact that it caused him to denounce his theological beliefs, even though it did. I think he took it to mean, can he trust any of his beliefs at all, regardless whether they were theological or even quote unquote scientific, because they were all a result. His theological beliefs and scientific beliefs were a result of the same process of evolution, which is random and unguided. His doubt, as I understand it, was to do with relying on his cognitive faculties, and whether we can trust them to be reliable versus just adaptable.
Yeah.
And what he could conclude was that they are definitely adaptable, because obviously if you're not adaptable, you wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
But that's quite a different thing from being reliable, because there's all sorts of false beliefs you can hold and still be evolutionary advantageous.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can still pass your genes on with false beliefs, because in some weird way, you know, you would say, for example, religious beliefs, they promote like a kind of societal cohesion in some strange way. However, ultimately the beliefs are false.
Right.
But they help you to pass on your genes to the next generation. I think Darwin's doubt, in the way I brought it up, it was more referring to that rather than it caused him to doubt his theological beliefs. It was all of his beliefs in general.
That's part of one of those weaknesses of being humans. You're right. We've got you know, we know that our perceptions are limited, right? Our ability to remember things is limited. Our ability to recall what we've seen is limited, and that goes into court now to the reduction of the importance of being somebody who sees something. So it is as good as we get, but it's as good as it is, but then we improve it by adding cultural things to it, right? Now, there are also false positive beliefs that are evolutionarily beneficial, though incorrect, right? Like the seeing the tiger, thinking you're seeing the tiger in the grass thing. If you think it's there more often than not, you're likely to run away and survive. But it's a false positive belief, because many times there won't be one there, and you've just run away for no particular reason, and waste a little bit of energy. But those who do
Which is
tend
survive.
to
Yeah.
survive better than those who have false negatives, who don't run away and become lunch. So, and you're right.
Yeah,
There may be
exactly.
some
That's
that are accidental, like the religion is not an evolutionary thing per se, but it has become sort of an ideology or a set of ideas or a set of memes that has a evolutionary result by promoting in-group cohesion and maybe enhanced reproduction. So,
but then I guess how would we know that even our quote unquote scientific beliefs are not just the same kind of result?
because the scientific beliefs are not based just on our brains; they are based on tools that are beyond our ability, that are better than our brains, and they are also based on a methodology which has which has bias um, detection and avoidance as part of the methodology. So if we follow that methodology, we'll do better than we do as individuals. That's a general rule. There's always going to be ways to improve it, and there's going to be institutional problems with science and funding and things like that. But it does better than us. I mean, look how much better a computer is in calculating statistics or something like that, especially now in this next generation of quantum computers. So that worry is going to be overcome by AI.
I,
We
I
could
think I get
never
what you're
we
saying.
could never have predicted the weather, right, as humans, until without computer modeling and stuff like that, like we do now. So we've got a lot of tools that we didn't used to have back in Darwin's day.
Right.
Yeah, and our
So
knowledge of things is so much greater than what he had. I mean, back then they thought, there was like millions of stars or something like that. And the answer is trillions of trillions. I mean, and when you add that to the thought of, well, how's this by chance when there's only a very limited amount of possibilities there, when you don't have the scope of how big the universe is.
Yeah, we didn't even know there was a universe, right? We didn't even know that there was there was more than one galaxy. We thought all the stars in the sky was everything you could possibly see.
How are you, Phil?
Nobody could see this. Hey, Green Angle, how you doing?
I just want to drop a little factoid on you while you're mentioning weather and Darwin.
Okay.
Captain Fitzroy, Captain Fitzroy, the captain of the Beagle.
Oh, okay.
He invented the modern weather system of prediction.
Did he really? Explain.
He did, and it's a lot of people like to spread the story that he committed suicide over Darwin's theory, but it was actually people were not believing his theory on weather.
Oh, that's what depressed him?
That's what depressed him, and it got proven beyond a doubt after he was
What theory
gone.
what part of the theory of weather are you talking about?
The kind of stuff you look in use, hectopascals and all those maps with all the, the high pressure zones and low pressure zones and stuff moving around. You say it's going to rain here, it's going to be windy there.
I got to find out more about this guy. Voyager with Darwin. He published the first public weather forecast in 1871. He headed the meteorological office, which later became the Met Office. Governor of New Zealand.
He was quite some pumpkin.
Well, that's cool. So this was his interest. He was a naval officer, scientist, and meteorologist. Well, I guess we would call him a meteorologist, but I don't know what they
Well, they didn't exist. He was the first meteorologist.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing you'd have two guys so close together, sort of formulating two very mainstream things.
I want to find out more. Hold on a second. Okay. He established a storm warning system, issued daily weather forecast. He coined the term weather forecasting in 1860 and published the first forecast in 1861. He advised on how to use barometers. He created
Yep.
systems to provide weather information to sailors and fishermen. This is a lot of important stuff.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing. Like it really blows your head off.
You're right. He published a book in 1863 that included his theories on how storms and wind patterns evolved. And he included barometers and weather storming systems in terms of, it looks like he was designing instruments.
And
Well,
who
he
didn't
must
have a
have been
barometer in their house?
he must have been an interesting dinner companion then for Darwin, I would think.
Well, that's what it was all about, wasn't it? He wanted someone he could talk to on a long voyage.
Yeah, yeah. That's cool. It makes that stuff like that makes me think of Mark Twain traveling the world, looking for interesting
Oh, that's one of my. Have you
companions to hang
read
with.
Innocents Abroad?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's one of my favourite books.
yeah. That's a good book. We should all do more traveling, huh? If life would allow it for us.
I hate it. I'd much rather read Innocents Abroad. I've done some travel. I get cranky.
You get cranky. I haven't traveled.
Yeah, I
I
get
haven't traveled
tired. I get
hardly at all,
irritated.
so that's why.
Although I'm off to Japan later in the year again, but yeah, we'll see.
Well, good for you.
It'll be fun.
Oh, all I
Yeah,
can say is
and on
bring
your
back.
subject there, I used to wonder why I got so angry about creationism.
Yeah.
Because I remember I can remember the first time I heard of it. It was 1978. I can remember this guy telling me evolution wasn't real. Like it just burned into my head. Like what the hell? And it was. You've got the word there, embarrassed. It took me years to figure this out because I was a Christian at the time. I was embarrassed
Because you were
because
taught that.
no. Well, I learned evolution. I learned science. It
Yeah.
worked for us. We were Anglican.
Yeah.
But there's Christian because I'm a Christian, that means I'm going to deny science. As a Christian myself, I found that embarrassing.
Good.
Like I was embarrassed that he would be the same religion as me.
That's good. I mean, it's now if we could just get the people that are pushing this stuff to be the ones who are embarrassed, I mean, this is one of those things that I think that it is open for mockery. I mean, we mock the flat earther as kind of a thing, and there should be more of this about evolution. This anti-evolution movement is getting way too big.
Wait a minute. You think the Earth is round?
Pretty
Well,
damn close.
it's anti-intellectualism now. It's just basic. It's basic fascism now. It is what it is.
Yeah, but think about it. I mean, last I looked it up. There's like 1 million in the United States, 1 million Christian college graduates every single year, and every one of them gets apologetics and creationism. So
Yeah. Well, I always said it'll lead to fascism, and it did. So I wish I was wrong. I love being wrong. Well, as a pessimist, being wrong is my favourite thing.
So when does the pendulum swing back? How long do we have to wait?
Yeah, I hope we don't have to go through what my parents went through.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That's the big question: is how bad is it going to get over here?
Hey, I got another fun one for you. I was in a live with Pat. Angry Pat, big Pat, angry atheist.
Pat Voss.
Yeah, Pat Voss.
Yeah.
Cranky Pat. And when some Irishman came in there, and he felt that because his argument was atheists believe in God because when we drop a brick on our foot, we go, Jesus Christ. I mean, I'm sure you've heard that before.
Well, we're all a product of our environment, so
But it got me to thinking, and I've thought about this a few times. We should come up with our own. We could come up with some new curses.
How about I don't know where this one comes from. How about crap on a cracker?
I like. How about Hitchens whiskers? Buy Hitchens whiskers.
Hitchens whiskers.
because that's just something you can't. Because he was clean shaven, so
That
it's sort of
sounds
like hen's teeth.
that sounds like too much like something from Galaxy Quest.
Yeah, and all right. What about something that you couldn't believe could be true, but's presented for you? Oh God, it slipped my mind now. By what's his name's Teapot?
Oh yeah. What? Yeah, I can't think of it either.
Oh, the mathematician, philosopher,
Yeah.
Englishman. Oh, it just
Gosh.
fell out of my head.
Yeah, me too.
I know who you're talking about, but not directly. I know William Lane Craig brings him up a lot, but I
Who
don't
is
know
it?
the guy.
Russell's
Russell,
teapot.
that's it. Oh,
Russell, that's it.
by Russell's Teapot. That's a
Bertrand
good. That's a
Bertrand
good one.
Bertrand Russell.
Of course, an Englishman brought up a teapot.
Burden of
Yeah.
proof lies upon a person making unfalsifiable claims. Russell's teapot.
Yeah.
Hello, doggy.
Well, that's it. But if something, it's like a black swan, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do they exist?
Maybe.
Anyway, I reckon that we should have a competition for the best secular curse.
That sounds good. I'm not sure where to do it though. With TikTok, you never know what we're allowed to say. So.
Oh no, well, you don't have to be. It doesn't have to be rude.
You never know.
Although it's funnier if it is.
That sounds like a good Facebook thread.
I'm not on the
It's
book
too
of
late.
faces.
They're not gonna stick. It's
Oh
the
no,
word
it's
is
not gonna.
too Christianized and too religious.
Yeah.
Like it's too late at this point.
We do need some of our own though, because I mean, this is just our generation, Grenangle. There's that we grew up Christian, and those who didn't grow up Christian can have their own language. Every generation has its own slang. So, anyways, all right. Well, I'm gonna wrap up.
Oh, I just caught the end of it. Oh well, I'm
You
glad
did.
it was good to chat.
Yeah. So,
Have a good night.
take care.
And
Thank
you go and check out more about Captain Fitzroy. He's an interesting fella.
Sounds like it. I would definitely hang with him and have dinner, and he probably enjoyed talking about his stuff. Having anytime somebody has a strong interest like that, they would love to talk about it. So,
Yeah. All right. Good night, man.
all righty. Take care. Everybody, be kind to each other. I will see you in a couple of days. And if you haven't followed me, please do so. If you haven't subscribed to me on YouTube, please do so over there too. And whatever one works for you, because I'll be on both from here forward. All right? All right. Take care. See you next time. Good night. So now let's close down the YouTube.